That's right, ladies and gentlemen, live from Free Admission Studios, this is Gym Crashers with myself, Joey the Bull, Dondo, and our special guest, Jason Bukich.
That's correct.
That's
World
right.
Series of Jiu-Jitsu, Jason Bukich. Chose Academy, Laguna Beach, Jason Bukich. Black Belt in Jiu-Jitsu, Jason Bukich. Need I say more?
Well, he did said he was from somewhere else, too, but I want to mention it on the air, too.
Oh, you can say.
Barrett Yoshida, Black Belt. Legit, dude. Come on.
From the gutters of Costa Mesa or Huntington Beach?
Laguna Beach, dude.
There you
There's no
go.
gutters there. What are you talking about?
The rain just drifts away, you know?
You can drink the water from the gutter there, you know? It's
I
one
wish
of
that
those
was
places.
true.
It's
I
like
wish
the
that was
Alps.
true.
I've been to the cliffs, and believe me, after you eat so much of that food and drink it, it kind of goes over the
The cliff caved in?
cliff restaurant, you know.
Landslide!
You're a dick.
That's all
what a
good.
jerk.
So Jason is here with us. We met Jason at 10th Planet Costa Mesa. A gentleman gave us an interview, but he does have more of a story. So, of course, we're always compelled by people that are in the martial arts world. And you come originally from, a group of people in South County that were doing this before it was cool to do it.
That's very true.
And I think that's
Yeah.
kind of unique. And now I don't know the whole story, but your beginnings, if you can start.
Interesting. So, I believe this is De La O Jiu-Jitsu, correct?
Yes.
So, I originally got my white through brown belt from Jeremy Williams,
Yes.
who was a student of Chris Brennan's.
Yes.
Chris Brennan, if I'm not mistaken, got his black belt from John De La O. So this has come full circle. So,
I love that.
yeah.
I love that we're here in De La O Jiu-Jitsu, and he says this because you're not the only one. I've heard it before. So this
He's
is
OG, man.
This is OG smallest backyard MMA Vale Tudo Jiu-Jitsu fighting school in Orange County. But unless you come from those kind of backgrounds, you won't know because the world of sport jiu-jitsu has really taken over.
Right. Right. 100%. It's different than it was 20 years ago.
Different world, yes, absolutely. So I appreciate that very much. But you started with Jeremy. Where was that at?
I first started him, I think the place was called LA Boxing.
Okay.
Well, I trained with Chris Brennan a few times at Next Generation when I was younger. But then I trained with Marco Huas for a while, and then I really started training seriously with Jeremy, but I don't know, like 2000 or something like that.
Very cool. I lived off Crown Valley for quite some time.
Nice.
And back in those days, Marco Huas was the guy to go to.
That's correct.
He was the first person in my understanding that put it together. The ground,
Right.
the standing, everything. And
Right.
even was a Gracie hunter before the term was called a Gracie hunter.
Yeah, there's stories of a lot of Gracies dodged him. I don't know if they're true, but I've heard
Yeah, no,
stories.
but I've heard 'em,
I
yeah.
would have dodged him because
Yeah.
the guy was a monster. Yeah.
I think he still is. I know he's getting up
He
there,
does.
but you get that look from him, and it's like,
I ran into him about maybe 3 months ago at a sushi place.
Yeah.
And he's still in good shape and still the same old nice Marco Huas.
if you're in South Orange County, you will run into Marco Huas from time to time. Sushi places for sure. Just a cool guy, but old school Gracie hunting Brazilian man that just he was different because he didn't have what we would know as jiu-jitsu, but he had enough ground game to stay on his feet
Damn right.
and to pound on people. So
Yeah.
and I love that style, and that's when the UFC was still probably in its infancy, and guys like him were just tough.
I mean, he was skilled too. He
Yeah.
wasn't just tough. But
Yeah.
he was. I think it was Paul. How you doing, Jason?
How's it going, Adam?
This is Adam Woods. Adam Woods in the house joining us today on our show. Jason Bukich is from World Series of Jiu-Jitsu and Chose Academy Laguna Beach.
That's pretty lofty. World Series of Jiu-Jitsu.
Right?
Just move the chair.
We don't want your wire to fall out.
The wires are stuck on the chair, so lift the chair. Yeah.
We're going to have no show if the wires get pulled.
Continue, gentlemen.
Well, we were talking because he had got to start with Jeremy. Jeremy was black belted by Chris Brennan.
That's
Chris
correct.
Brennan was black belted by John De La O. So we're in holy ground here.
Yeah.
Wow.
We come from the same
that's
lineage.
That's a crazy. I mean, small world, right?
Right.
I mean, literally, like the martial arts community. Usually, it's a degree of separation about people knowing each other, but like it really becomes almost like two.
I mean, 20, however limited. Like, since you, let's just say, go back to UFC 1.
Sure.
There was maybe less than a handful of schools in South Orange County that actually taught like MMA jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
And Chris Brennan was one of those guys.
Yeah.
and then John DeLo was probably even before him,
Yeah.
right? And they may have trained together. So John DeLo in like Southern California is probably literally one of the OG MMA
yeah.
trainers back
I
then.
actually know part of that story. So, Chris wanted to fight in the UFC.
Chris Brennan.
Chris Brennan, yeah. And what happened was they were only letting black belts fight in the early UFC days. So I mean, that's kind of how the story went. That DeLo was left the Gracies as well, and said, "Here you go, let's work together." And I think that's what happened. Try to get Chris to get a fight at UFC.
Got it. That makes sense.
Adam, just lift the chair straight up. As you're stepping up, no, lift the chair straight.
Chris-
Stand up and just lift the chair straight up.
Chris is in Texas now. He's still
Frisco.
trains, still competes. His son's like doing really well. So
We know that story as well because Chris connected to our dojo too through a lot of us that know him. And yes, his sons are coming up. His daughter's a jiu-jitsu phenom, but
She trained
Lucas is the son that,
yeah.
that is actually coming up. I think through some fights in Vegas, tough enough. He
Bellator.
fought in
He's-
Bellator
no,
now.
he's in Bellator now. I
Yeah,
think he
so-
won his first fight.
An incredible guy,
Yeah.
dude. I watched him compete really young and watched him grow and learn, and he was always a phenom.
Maddie trained here for a year at least.
His sister trained here as well. But
Lucas did?
getting back to Lucas,
Maddie hit Chris Brennan's daughter.
Oh, okay.
Lucas, the young man that is fighting now, came from Tough Enough and some other promotions, but got to Bellator. But one thing about him, it's something that I don't see very often. He puts on his headphones, and he's got this swagger. He walks around the room and owns it like he's in his zone. And I think when he fights, he really doesn't see other people. He's a Jedi. If Chris Brennan's your dad, you're going to be a Jedi, I think.
Right,
you know what I
right,
mean?
right.
He breeds them. So it's an incredible guy. I love the guy. So, he came
And
here
he had like a really strong impact because a lot of the guys who are coaches now in Southern California came from him. Jeremy.
This
Russ,
is where we
Adam.
were going. This is where we're going. So yes, Jeremy Williams. We all know tragic end to that story. We all wish he were still here with us. For those of us that lived right there, it was down the street. When it hit the news, it was down the street from my house.
Mine too.
So it's home. So when those things were happening, and then even shortly thereafter, Justin. Did the similar thing. A terrible thing, but you're right. Getting back to the good things that happened from that, Jeremy gave a lot of people their start, I guess you could say.
100%.
Like Adam Lynn, Russ Mura, Jason Bukich, right? It's incredible the number of people that have jiu-jitsu MMA beginnings at that time. And I don't even think it was coined MMA at that time yet. Just barely calling it mixed martial arts.
NHB or something.
Yeah,
There's
no holds
barred
barred,
back then. Yeah.
So
Yeah, because it wasn't until probably the mid 2000s where the coining of the term MMA,
would stick.
Right, exactly. But it was pretty much a free for all up until that point. Now, in terms of the evolution of jiu-jitsu, obviously from those formative years to now, what has it meant to you to kind of see the growth of overall jiu-jitsu? Guys like Gordon and Nicky Ryan, and there's a litany of people that are actually Jeff Glover making their living off of jiu-jitsu.
he retired.
Absolutely.
No, not Jeff Glover. Gordon Ryan.
Right. So, what does that mean to you as one of the early kind of pioneers, especially in this region, to see it just explode the world over?
I still think it's in its infancy. I still think
That's wild.
Yeah,
Because it's everywhere. So for you to say that means there's so much more room to grow.
Right, especially for as far as a spectator sport.
Sure.
To us it's the world, or maybe to me it's the
Right.
world.
I'm the
but
same.
If you go to the average person on the street and ask them who's Gordon Ryan, they have no idea, right?
True.
But hopefully we can change that, and in 10 or 20 years, Gordon Ryan will be just as popular as
There's Gordon Ramsay.
exactly. Hopefully more popular than Gordon Ramsay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
So that's what I'm trying to do with the World Series is give guys an avenue to make money so that they, first of all, because competing in MMA, your lifespan is short, right?
Absolutely.
For most people, and you take a lot of damage. But jiu-jitsu, you could potentially compete your entire life. Like it's a pretty gentle, low impact sport. So as long as you take care of yourself, you could compete for a long time.
If
avoid
you roll
injuries.
smart, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all about rolling smart.
Right.
Elio Gracie, they say he rolled until, he went. So, I don't know what truth there is to that, but I'd like to believe, because we all love the sport, that we can continue into those upper years, right?
I've heard that he was. I'm sure he wasn't as good as he was when he was young.
You're
but,
never going to be, right?
But I know a guy who rolled with him like 2 years before he died, and he said that you could still tell that he still had that something inside of him.
Instinct.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because at some point we as jiu-jitsu practitioners, we stop thinking and do more just on, I don't know if it's muscle memory, but it becomes more conversational. It often seems like when I've rolled with someone that we've already gotten to know each other, and I may not have said a word, but yet there's that 100%, bond, right?
Yeah.
So the conversational part of it is what you evolve into. Often you see black belts roll, very little movement. You see white belts roll, people flying all over the place. Guy almost breaks his leg, and you're like, white belts, I get it. No problem.
Right.
You're learning. Very little movement with black belts. And then the cinch comes in, and then bam, somebody gets something. And you're like, what happened? I missed it. I sneezed. But there's those conversations that take place, and that's a beautiful thing. No matter where you go, you have that. You may not speak my language, but we roll and we have something, Yeah,
just that touch, you can learn a lot about somebody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and how they approach you. That tells you a lot of who they are,
right? Or
where they're at with their own ego, right? It's an interesting thing. You get so much out of an initial role with someone, So I always find that interesting that there's so much deeper than people even go into,
right?
On the surface we see this grappling art, but there's stuff beneath that, and it's a very deep and layered approach to jiu-jitsu as you grow in years.
Yeah, you can almost get into their psyche. You know what I mean?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
When someone breaks,
right?
And it doesn't have to be physical.
Or how their emotional state at that moment.
It certainly can be that. Yes, because we don't all come to class or competition in the same frame of mind.
Right.
Things are happening all around us.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's no question when jiu-jitsu life kind of permeates your regular life, where you start hanging out with the people that you roll with that are in the gym, and it goes far beyond the mats. And you know, kind of to you guys' estimation and assessment of it. I mean, if a training partner of yours kind of goes dirty, digs an elbow here or whatever, and I was like, wait, maybe that's not the person that I want to be around, because I mean, there's no lights, no cameras, no anything, there's no medals at place. But if you're willing to do that to me here when we're supposed to be having an exchange, a mutual exchange, then...
Or maybe you have an answer for that, right? Isn't that what the part of the conversation is? That
there's that too, yeah.
You might have just said the F word, but I know an F word or two myself.
Yeah.
That is also the exchange.
Yeah.
There's no harm, no foul. It is a contact sport, so...
it's true.
We've got something on the board here. Go ahead and tell us about that. What are we looking at?
We're looking at...
Give Robert the... microphone so we understand what we're looking at.
Oh, that looks like the homepage for the World Series of Jiu-Jitsu.
There we go. Thank you for warning us.
Hey, thanks for the plug.
Awesome. World Series of Jiu-Jitsu, Arizona 2020 Gi No Gi Championship.
The top banner, those are like the guys who've won recent championships. It says how much money they've won and what their belt rank is, and then if you scroll down, you'll see like a map with where we have tournaments coming up. We are still rolling out our 2020 schedule, so
look at that.
But we're gonna do some probably about 6 East Coast events this year, and then at least the same amount of West Coast. So yeah, little by little.
Tell us about your next event in Orange County.
February 1st. If we get past capacity, it'll be February 2nd too. Will be gi, but it's a gi and no gi event, submission only, EBI overtime, and the cash prizes for the winners of every division. So, and it's based on the amount of guys in the division. So if there's 2 guys in the division, first place is $250. If it's a full bracket with 16 guys, then it's $800 for first, second, $400 for second, and it's a breakdown of how that works.
And there's an interesting fly here on the left.
Well, I like that one myself. So, for the viewer, I see $1,000 and a custom AR-15.
Yes, sir.
That's a dream.
It's So it's the first time we're doing it.
Yeah.
And so what is it? Naga who gives away the swords?
Naga.
The swords, right?
Naga gives away the swords.
And a lot of others will give you some belt or something like that.
Trophies, belts, you name it, medals.
And so I actually did like a poll with our users because I wasn't sure how they. It's interesting. Like how how do firearms and martial arts go together? Is it a totally different community, or is it all the part of the self-defense? If you put like a Venn diagram, you probably get some people who are totally against it, some people who are totally gung-ho, and then a lot of people who just either way don't care.
Yeah.
But I was surprised at the amount of people who, because I said, like, how do you feel about giving away an AR-15? And I expected, especially in California, we'd get a lot of flack, you know?
Sure.
But
That's brave of
like
you.
it was overwhelming majority of people were supportive of it. So
I'm
it's gonna
actually
be the
glad
first
to hear
time.
that. I'm
Yeah,
so
I was too. You know, self-defense, right? Yeah. And
First and foremost, I agree with everything you just said. Owning a gun, especially an AR-15, if we don't have them, then only the enemy has them. I will
That's the
never
thing.
understand that.
I'll be the first one to. I don't like guns.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah,
really
I don't
don't
need
like
one.
guns.
I don't own one.
I wish the world didn't have guns.
That's right. But
However,
since they do.
However, if, like you just said, if you take away the guns from the good guys, then only the criminals are going to have guns, right?
Yeah.
Or the dangerous people who aren't willing to give them up. So you
That's
need to
right.
protect yourself. You need to know martial arts, and you have to be able to protect yourself and
Agreed.
your family, right?
Agree. 100%. Robert, you got a question for us?
No, buddy of mine, I told him about this thing, right? About the AR-15. Said, why are they giving it to the winner? It's like the loser should need that more than the winner.
This isn't the movie The Joker. Freak me out.
Yeah, you have to earn that, you know. Yeah, it's because I mean it's not you're giving them not like a fake sword. It's you have to trust that the person who knows who's gonna has it is gonna know what they're gonna do with it. you
That's
know?
amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just no small weapon. This is, legit.
Yeah. And the company who's sponsoring it is Strike Industries, is a family friend of mine, and he's really into martial arts too. So it just
Very
kind of
cool.
worked out well. So it's our first time, and I hope that the community embraces it.
I like that you're tying it in with that because my understanding, we look at something like karate, something kind of removed from where MMA is today. But a lot of those initial moves we're looking at, the jumping kicks and things were to remove someone from a horse because
Right.
the weapons were eliminated in Japan.
Right.
So the empty hand thing slowly became the way of the farmer, the way they were using tools like hoes and
Right,
shovels,
sickles and
whatever it was.
exactly.
Whatever their farming tools were, those were the weapons of the day.
Exactly.
But a lot of the exaggerated moves that we see in our Bruce Lee films and our kung fu films that we love so much were to remove a man from a horse or to fight someone who had armor. You had to penetrate armor,
Sure.
or somebody had a weapon and you did not have a real weapon, so you had to know the parts of the body a lot better. A lot of anatomy mattered. Like with jiu-jitsu, we learn anatomy real quick. So yeah, having an AR-15 is just one of those.
Yeah, it's like an extension. Somebody posted on our thing about, if you want to embrace the martial arts spirit, it's not about weapons. But actually, what you just said, in Okinawa, they took away the weapons from the peasant farmers, right? So they had to learn how to fight with spears and sickles and just make makeshift weapons to defend themselves from the bad guys who had the weapons, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the invaders, right?
Yeah,
Gotta
yeah.
defend yourself from the invaders.
It's the exact same story, just in a modern world.
Yeah, it's just this different technology.
Yeah.
I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast the other day, and it was the guy who was talking about cowboys. Did anybody, or not Native Americans? And did you guys hear this one?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That was so interesting.
Yeah, so basically, Joe Rogan has been into this book about the Comanche natives, right?
That's the one,
Right,
yes.
absolutely. So it is common knowledge and thought that, the English as well as the Spanish came over, and basically dictated the land and what have you. But the people that lived here and were the most bloodthirsty of the warriors were the Comanche. And the Comanche had a tendency just to, be the most brutal, right? Do you remember the person that they captured, the gal?
Who ended up becoming the mother of the guy?
Yes, absolutely.
Of course, I can't remember the name.
Right, exactly. So basically, the Comanche essentially took this young girl, right, a young English girl.
Pocahontas.
Not quite.
Elizabeth Warren.
Pocas
Yes,
nalgas.
let's call her Elizabeth. Right? We call her Elizabeth, and she basically gets taken in by the Comanche, taken into the tribe, raised as a Comanche, and then marries one of the generals, right? One of the biggest and baddest warriors. Well, they recapture her after 20 years after she basically had, I think, 4 to 6 kids with him. and then she didn't want to assimilate. It was very hard, right? So this narrative that we have about like, oh man, the people with the rifles came over and then they just took the land. That may be true, but that doesn't mean that weaponry wasn't established prior to that happening, and kind of, I guess one could consider it a genocide happening before it.
Exactly, and the point that he made about that was that the Texas Rangers, before they had the invention of the six-shooter pistol,
Absolutely.
the natives were actually better with, they could shoot more arrows quicker. Like if you had a one shot, right, and then you had to reload and do all that stupid shit.
Yeah.
Pardon my French.
No, absolutely.
But they could fire off, like the Comanches especially could fire off like rapid like arrows, so they could overwhelm them.
That's pretty
But
cool.
once the six-shooter came in, that turned the tables for them, because then they could fire six shots rapidly.
Unbelievable.
And
Then after that, you had Chuck Norris, Texas Walker Ranger, that came on through, and
Walker, Texas Ranger.
Walker, yeah,
Texas Walker Ranger?
something like that. I'm dyslexic.
He's walking on a Ranger or something.
No, it was Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris is the Walker Texas Ranger. Yeah.
Okay, no, walking tall. I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Walking tall is the Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, confused.
Robert's
okay.
from a different rock, so they
Okay.
have different stars
Okay.
over there.
Yeah.
Trust me.
I went to the same high school as him.
tiny
you went to the same high school
bubbles.
as Chuck Norris?
Another rock.
Did you really?
Wow.
Not
Where-
at the same time. In
Where
Hawaii.
was that? In
In Hawaii for he was there for a short amount of time.
what island?
Oahu.
Okay, I used to live in Kona for a while.
Oh yeah.
Best place in the world, man.
I was
Shut
here-
up, bro.
I moved here when I was 22.
He sure did. I saw him
I'm
come off the
sorry.
plane with a big old afro.
Done.
Boom, boom.
Is Rock? Is he from Hawaii originally? I didn't know that.
No, I think he's from Florida, but he
No.
spent some time.
I see.
He was actually born in Hayward, up north.
Really?
Right, and so basically his grandfather was a wrestler, dad was a wrestler, so they would travel the territories, and that's kind
Like
of how he
like.
became-
These were only
Professional
territories
wrestling.
in the
Really?
United
I didn't
States.
know
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. He's third generation.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's cool.
Absolutely. So
Yeah, that's
it's
very cool.
yeah, but half actually French Canadian. His dad, of course, of African descent, but grew up in like the prairies of like Quebec.
Wild.
Right? And then his mom being Samoan, that's where he gets his.
I know nothing about this, so you're educating me. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's
you
like
go.
Whatever makes that type of person, that's kind of cool, right?
well, the funny thing about it is
Whatever coconuts they ate, I need those more.
Yeah.
you and me both, because
You know?
half black, half Polynesian. That's me.
Melanesian.
I'm only 5'9". I'm only 5'9". So
You're half black, half Polynesian.
yeah, Melanesian apparently. Yeah.
Fijians are Melanesian. It's a different,
Yeah,
different,
Okay.
Yeah, I found that
a whole
on
different,
the show.
a whole different subculture.
They're in Mexico, right?
Well-
That's what you mentioned last time.
Are we? I guess. I guess. Right on. 10 points.
Papua New Guinea, Fiji, Micronesia, typically Melanesian. Tahiti, Marquesas, Hawaii, Polynesian.
Okay.
Wow.
And if you have a ambidextrous Polynesian, what the hell do you have?
National Geographic. too.
Someone that can finger you from both sides.
There he goes.
There you go.
There you go.
Yes.
He has.
And he was warming up last week
Yes.
because
Microphone, Robert, microphone.
Because I mean, Adam wasn't here, so usually we kind of like talk about what we did through the past week before. But Dondo and I went to Irvine to check out an open mic at what was it called?
Umami burger.
Umami Burger.
Umami
Open
burger.
mic, a comedy open mic.
Yeah, because he's getting ready.
Spectrum.
He wants to try that. So a buddy of
I'm
mine.
gonna try. I've been spitting comedy my whole life. I'm just gonna go do it.
Yeah, well,
that's
what spectrum?
Okay, of all the things in life, I think that's probably the hardest thing to do.
I think that
I think it'd be easier to be a neurosurgeon than a good comedian, and I 100%.
agree.
You know,
I agree.
because I only speak to my known audience, that leads me to believe I can be funny. You're right. When you don't know the audience and the surroundings and the vibe, therein lies the genius.
Right.
Right. That's why you got to be thinking about where you're at, what's on their minds, what's in pop culture at the moment, and that's what drives people. That's what they're thinking about. You know, it's already there. There's a layer of that already there. But I'm already preaching to the converted already here. They know all my BS, so I do things just to shock them. I talk about things they don't want to hear, just to hear them say, "Why does he talk about that?"
There you go.
I want to go see your open mic. That would
Okay,
be-
I think-
you're in,
I
bro.
think-
You're
yeah,
in.
I mean, we all are. So let's do Jim Crasher's kind of, what is it, field trip.
I often say you guys have to be there because my type of comedy usually is insulting someone, so it's gonna get ugly.
You gotta have something to insult.
Good to have allies.
I'll be your Huckleberry.
I'll take out a perfect stranger. I have no mercy.
What does
No,
Malky
you-
have
you-
to do with this?
If you make fun of me on stage, I'll get up and knock the shit out of you, brother.
If you can breathe when you get there. We all know you have breathing disorders.
Once I knock you out, I'm gonna let it all hang out.
Step
Show
off
it's
the
real.
stage, you'll step up, and it's like, oh.
You can make fun of me and I won't knock you out. Or I won't at least
He's
try
a
to.
perfect
knock.
gentleman
it's
here.
10 points
I know he's
here,
got
yeah.
skills, though.
And after I knock you out, I'm gonna use you as a little dummy on my knee.
Joey the Bull says, huh? Oh. He's deflated.
I mean, aside from the obvious answer of Joe Rogan, who would you think would, in terms of the comedy field, would make a good jiu-jitsu practitioner?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Who of the comedians would be a good jiu-jitsu
Yeah.
practitioner? Wow, I could tell you who I'd like to do jiu-jitsu
Okay.
with. Dave Chappelle, because he's just
Yeah.
my favorite comedian. But I don't know if how good he'd be with jiu-jitsu. I
That's
just
good.
because it'd be so much fun to practice with him. Like I just love Dave Chappelle. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
about that guy is.
He's a genius.
He's amazing. Isn't
I love him. I like the way he thinks,
Who
yeah.
would be a good comedian?
It-
Dave. Are there any other comedians that are famous for doing jiu-jitsu that I'm not aware of?
Well, I mean, Adam Hunter is he's known within the comedy realm, and he's like an MMA coach. So is Ian Harris out of Fight Science MMA down.
You know who I heard does jujitsu is
Ed
the
O'Neill.
Yeah, try it out.
Ed O'Neill.
oh Ed O'Neill, of course.
yeah,
Ed
but he doesn't
O'Neill,
do stand-up,
sorry.
No,
does
no,
he?
not maybe
Yeah.
at some point, but not really often. But
Yeah.
Russell Peters.
Yes,
Russell Peters.
Peters
Ah,
does
yeah,
it.
Russell. He does.
I'll
yes.
roll with
Blue
Russell
belt. He's
Peters
a-
any day.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm down.
He's a blue
You would
choked-
wrestle Peters any day?
Russell Peters.
I'd wrestle your Peters.
He
Oh,
choked
thanks.
out some guy in a jewelry store. Did you guys see
I
that?
didn't hear
Yes.
that.
Yeah, he
Yes, he
did.
did.
He choked
That's
out a
pretty
guy,
cool.
a thief in a jewelry
Yeah,
store.
I
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty
See,
awesome.
Russell Peters of all people you wouldn't suspect, right?
No, Russell Peters. Yeah.
You know?
There you go.
I'll roll with Demi Lovato.
Who would be the? Yeah.
I know you will. I know you
Nothing
will.
funny about that.
Nogi, right?
Nogi,
Nogi.
Nogi. No spats.
Oh, Jesus.
It's that kind of
I
show.
should know this, but is she a singer or an actress?
Probably
Singer.
both.
Both.
She's a singer, right? I think I know who she is.
Yeah.
She
She's pretty,
does
is all I
jujitsu,
know.
right? Like she's like a white belt or a blue belt.
No,
I saw,
she's a blue.
I saw a picture of some of that
Yeah, yeah.
online.
I think with the Machados.
Yeah, Higan for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
She's famous for dating Luke Rockhold first, and then she went with another.
She dated a Jonas brother.
And
remember
well, I
that.
mean,
talking
when
about
she
the fight
popped
realm.
up as on the fields of on our
MMA on our radar.
on our radar is because of Luke Rockhold.
Oh,
she
yes.
dated another
Yeah, I don't
MMA guy
follow
too
the girls
after. I
that
can't remember who it
date
was.
Justin Bieber, but you can tell me more.
There you go.
she did it. Justin Bieber too.
I don't know.
Yeah. In my mind's eye, like I would love to see George Carlin versus Elio Gracie
In a fight.
Yeah, just like I mean, just the way
yeah.
that Carlin approaches comedy, I think that would lend itself well.
Interesting.
I mean,
I like you the way you're thinking about it. So you're looking at how does their mental,
Yeah.
that's very okay. Larry
But
David.
Chappelle's a
Larry
good one,
David.
yeah.
Larry David.
Larry David. That's a good one. Yeah.
If I had to meet anyone in the world, you say you can meet one person right now, I would say Larry David. That guy to me,
Really?
something funny about that guy. He
That's
just
wild.
makes me laugh, man.
Do you guys know about the story about how he saved somebody from getting locked up?
Yes,
Yes,
I did.
Yes,
I did on his show, right?
Yeah.
I know nothing about it.
yeah. So essentially, there was a murder. Somebody got wrongfully accused, and he was like, "They wrongfully accused." He was just like, "I was at a Dodger game, whatever." And there was no proof of him until they found out that Larry David was literally filming Curb Your Enthusiasm in this exact same section, and he went to the bathroom, and they saw him on the B-roll.
Picture of him in the film.
That's
so he was
awesome.
at how his alibi was turned out to be.
How's
legit.
that for vindication, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So these little things, they'll save your life one day.
For sure.
Or not.
Are you talking about your little thing? Anyways, besides all that, guys, what'd you guys do this weekend?
We do. We'll go with the first.
Weekly recap. We're going into the weekly recap segment. What did we do this weekend?
I took my kids to Big Bear for the second time actually.
That's
Yeah.
a dope trip. I love it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Big Bear isn't what we did when we were kids. You just go slide down the mountain. There's a whole little town now. And there's a place called The Cave where you can actually you see legit bands. Like, I dig Big Bear.
Big Bear's awesome.
It's
We had
the
a really
place,
good
dude.
time. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Took my family and my wife.
Good
and
for you, man.
We had a good time. Yeah.
Right on. Is it crowded?
No, actually not too. Well, I take that back. We went Thursday and came back Friday night.
Yeah.
So we went, and then we just relaxed over the weekend. Because the weekend would have been busy because everyone's there to snow.
Yeah.
But if you go on the weekdays, the hotels are really cheap and it's really it's not crowded at all.
Well, anytime Dondo goes to Big Bear, he goes to Santa Monica to watch some Big Bears.
Well, I go to Santa Monica. Come right here. I got two out in the studio with me.
What'd you do this weekend?
Somebody hit
No,
the air.
Actually, did you do the Rim of the World Highway going up to Lake Arrowhead?
Rim of the I
Rim of
guess
the
I
World's
must
Up the
have.
mountain?
It's a little town too.
Yeah.
The 38 or whatever the hell,
Yeah,
18, 39,
that's
whatever.
the sketchiest bit of road.
Really?
Because everybody goes like 70 up the hill, and there's only a
Try the
little bit-
Ortega Highway sometime.
Ortega Highway?
Somebody dies on the Ortega every day.
Oh gosh, what is that?
The Ortega?
South Orange County.
You're not. You know what else I did? On Saturday, I went to Ace Jiu-Jitsu
Yeah.
in Fullerton.
Fountain Valley?
Fountain Valley.
Fountain Valley.
Yeah, and the guy there is Tim Cardmell.
Uh-huh.
Good. That guy's got some interesting. He's got a Chinese martial arts background.
Okay.
And he blends it with his jiu-jitsu really well.
Oh, that's really
do you know?
cool.
Do you know who Edmund Kim is? He's an AOJ black belt, but he's originally from Tim.
I don't
He's
know.
a high level. He's
Okay.
a high level competitor. He's very good, but he's from Tim. He's got very good jiu-jitsu. Anyway, I was just wondering if you knew them.
No, I like that kind of thought process. When someone does come from a traditional martial art background, and then they learn jujitsu, which is so practical. Not to say anything about
Yes.
the earlier
No,
martial arts, but
100%.
jujitsu is practical. Those martial arts, those moves, again, they were designed for other times.
Right.
To do other things.
Right, absolutely.
They're very efficient for those things.
For those things,
But
absolutely.
jujitsu matters right now because it's hand-to-hand combat. you
I
know?
agree. Yeah.
So when you put those two together, you get a unique animal.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know, Joe
Exactly.
Rogan. You ever seen those kicks?
Yeah.
I used to think Joe Rogan, like when I was just starting out and he was
Yeah,
a comedian.
Fear Factor.
And I was like, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. And then I saw videos. His kicks are unreal.
His kicks are, yeah.
Dude, that would
With
be
him
like.
showing the GSP, that spinning back kick.
Yeah.
And just like the reverberation, you
Yeah.
can't fake that.
And the
man.
technique, the way he throws his hip and turns his, it's perfect technique.
You
Yeah.
do that kick 1,000 times, right? That's
Yeah.
what he
Yeah.
says, and then you're an expert, and it's just that one kick.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
would
you know,
be enough to end
Bruce
the
Lee
fight.
says that, right?
Right.
You can do 1,000 different kicks, but
Yeah.
if you do one kick 1,000 times, that's the dangerous
That's
guy.
exactly right.
You know?
Yes,
That's
exactly
what I look
right.
for. So
100%. Like Barrett Yoshida, that's. I don't know if you know.
yes, of course.
You get in
The
his
flying Hawaiian,
crucifix.
of course.
If you get into his crucifix, you're not getting out of his. I
was
don't
just
care
told
who you
this
are.
tonight. I was just told this.
You're not
that
getting out.
You will get crucifixed by Barrett Yoshida.
If
I've
you-
actually interviewed him. He's actually really cool.
Yeah, you're done. If he gets you there, I don't know. I can't really think of anyone who can get out of that. It's unreal.
Interesting.
Yeah, without strength too. It's just pure skill, and it's like
That's
unreal.
also an interesting point. Is that as we meet people, and at different levels of jiu-jitsu, some people are so adept at certain things,
Hmm.
like Barrett Yoshida with his crucifix. There are just people that just nail certain things in a
Right.
certain way, and it has nothing to do with strength. It has nothing to do with aggressiveness.
Right.
They find it. It's that moment, and they seize that moment. I love that.
Hmm.
That whole part of jiu-jitsu and martial arts is what I crave. Right? It's just it's actually immobilizing someone to the point where they just cannot go any further.
Yeah.
I want to. Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say I want to ask Barrett if he ever put one on Ensign. Egan, I believe. Ensign, I'm wondering. That dude was so big back in those days.
yeah, how do you do
Ensign's
that?
having a seminar at the arena on the 25th.
Wow.
And I don't know.
We gotta go to this.
But
Yeah,
you guys should come down and interview him.
So
He'll be
love
there.
that.
The crazy part is I grew up in Manoa Valley, which is where their dojo was in the marketplace that I used to walk past.
The Inoue brothers or what?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It was Egan went to school with my mom's older sister.
Okay.
So like our family's kind of. I've never met them personally,
You probably didn't even know it.
and of course like I lived in the same island, so I knew a lot of people who trained with them, but I wasn't doing jiu-jitsu at that time. I was just middle school maybe. So
That's a wild story.
I don't know if Barrett's ever put him in a crucifix, but I'm sure if they rolled, MMA would be a different story. But if they just rolled, I have a feeling Barrett could probably catch him in a crucifix. Yeah.
that guy's so huge.
Barrett's
Yeah.
unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Barrett, I mean,
And he'll be the first one to admit it. What's his name? Ensign, even in the last seminar, said that this is an example of when the pupil surpasses the master. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that whole thought process as well, because where you get in your learning when that does happen, You know, because there's always going to be that time.
Right. Yes.
Because you have blossomed or developed into something that is not taught.
Right.
It is essentially you, mat time, hours of work, and doing what you can, and then you've become what you've, worked so hard to become, and then your instructor recognizes that. To me, that's more important than your black belt.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
When you get to that point, it's an
Absolutely.
amazing thing. Getting back to our weekend, we know he went to the mountains. We did Spar Star as a group. Jim Crashers went to Spar Star. It's an important event for us because we're bringing Southern California's hometown heroes to the forefront at a MMA event for amateurs at the Commerce Casino. And Adam and I know this is one of the best, so.
What do you want to clarify? Spar Star is a MMA event?
Yes.
At Commerce?
Commerce.
Last weekend?
Yes.
Yeah,
Really?
absolutely.
Coming up again in March, I'm going to invite you. So we have
that'd be
You should
awesome.
come March 31st, I believe.
March
is
31st.
The next date. So
Yep.
save the date, folks. Spar Star is always a good time. But we interviewed a litany of up-and-comers, as well as we've got some interviews with Ben Jones from CSW that was launched yesterday. Curtis Molinder, who fights for Bellator in about 2 weeks' time, the Saturday after next at the Forum. And that went live today on the Free Admission YouTube channel, so check that out. But we'd like to thank Michael Gross and Tony Padilla,
Absolutely.
Rick Hollywood, and the rest of the crew. Always open and inviting to whatever we want to do. Joey the Bull actually got to do his first set of interviews, and that was pretty awesome.
Bull
And
or
that's
no
the
bull?
Perfect segue because it was Joey's first trip with us and did a great interview. I'm actually gonna play the one that we've already cut for him.
Oh, we're playing Joe's interview.
Oh, there you go.
He did a great job.
Absolutely.
So you want to hear some sound on that big screen.
There it is. The wolf.
That's right. This is Joey the Bull from Jim Crashers. I'm here with Mark Pacquiao, brother. Oh my God. What a great fight. I mean, tell me, walk me through it, man.
Hey, Brazilian Samurai Coach Juan Gomez, he made me believe that left leg. I knew this guy was a wrestler, but he said, your left leg is too powerful. You're going to break this kid. And it happened. I just believed in my coach.
And what amazes me when I was watching this fight, you're actually looking at the ref like, dude, are you going to stop this fight? Because you were just grinding and pounding all day. Even when he was switching and moving around, it was amazing.
Hey, they know I'm Muay Thai, but they don't know I'm wrestler too. I wrestled in high school. I got a good wrestling pedigree, but I like striking. That's why I use my wrestling to keep it standing, but they don't know about my wrestling either.
And once again, I'd like to congratulate you. You just pulled the big number in the ring. I mean, you proposed to your lady. How long y'all been with each other?
I've known her for almost 4 years, but we've been together for 3 years. She's a really good girl. She's gonna go to law school, and she supports everything I do. She lets me go to practice. She knows I'm practicing. She's home alone, and lonely. They want attention, but she lets me do my thing, and I wouldn't be here without her.
That's much love and much respect. Now, they want to find your social media. Where can they find you?
Just type in Mark, M-E-R-K, Pacquiao. If you don't know how to spell it, look up Manny Pacquiao, same spelling, and there you go.
And once again, congratulations on everything, your win and your proposal.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you. This is Joey the Bull, Jim Crashers, signing out.
Woo!
That's
Joey's
what I'm
trying to
talking
steal my
about.
job.
Big, sexy right there.
I don't know about sexy, but definitely big.
That's usually reserved for you, right? That's usually reserved for you.
He's super
Now I
size.
see why you want to punch him on the stage.
Yeah.
Daily.
He might just walk up to hit you even if you don't say anything about
Oh,
it.
he would try to blindside me any day of the week, but I can hear him breathing a mile away. It's him or Darth Vader, one or the other.
Whatever, tattoo.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Rourke.
The plane, boss, the plane.
Lane.
But I mean, have you? I mean, Southern California is such a hotbed for all aspects of martial arts. Have you got to go around local shows to kind of see the talent coming out of different gyms here?
I used to teach at the arena in San Diego, and we would go to the I
spot.
think it's called Epic.
Epic, yeah.
Yeah, we go
Epic,
to
yeah.
Epic
a
once
great
every
one.
couple months to watch their. But since then, I haven't been too involved in the amateur MMA scene. So I was at some point, but now recently not so much.
How long ago was that?
I think I moved back up here to Orange County 2015. So it's been 4 years. 4
Okay,
years.
yeah. Epic puts on a great show. That's another one of those kind of benchmark in terms of you can't decipher whether it be Epic or Spar Star, amateur from pro. I mean, they really, in terms of big lights, big fights, they almost rival some of the pro shows, the regional pro shows that happen here.
100%.
Yeah.
It's, the only difference is they don't pay the fighters,
Yeah.
which to me is
Yeah.
horrible. It's terrible, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with the NCAA essentially paying their player, athlete, students, and whatever, maybe we'll
Which is
see
also
that.
criminal. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. But maybe that permeates, into MMA of some sort.
Okay, so that's a good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's hear it.
When I started fighting,
Yep.
and I'm not even first generation, so I can't even go back as far as the old school guys. But my first fight, I made $100 to fight and $100 to win, and I fought in some bar here. I think it was in San Pedro or something. I forget the name of the
Really?
bar.
Wow.
But
Maybe the Waters Club.
But it was my first fight, and I think it was in 2003 or 2004.
Wow.
But at least I made $200.
Yeah.
But now you have to pay to fight. You have to
Yes.
go through all the medical
Sell
stuff.
tickets.
And you pay to train, and then you
Yeah.
go out there, and then they say, okay, it's worse than the IBJJF
Yeah.
because at least you don't risk your life in the IBJJF.
Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah,
in
it's true.
these amateur shows, I don't know. You should get paid something to win.
That's an interesting point in that you're putting it all on the line. It's often been said to me that you may not come out the same.
Yeah. You could
You
theoretically
potentially,
be severely, or if not permanently injured, or worse.
It could change you as a person.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things that actually went viral from that show, and shout out to MMA Neutral for having the footage, but a fighter, Richard True, who essentially was the post-limb fight, he got slammed on his head. And that has been...
They put him out.
Yeah, I think and it's got about 17,000 views on Twitter.
This is recent.
Yeah, that was...
It happened
at the
Saturday
show.
night.
It happened at the show.
Suplex, picked him up, dropped him, put him out.
Did he get knocked out?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was ugly.
100%.
I was sitting ringside and I saw it coming. Once the guy grabbed homeboy, he just looked him up.
Oh, is that it? Oh,
And,
is this it?
Yeah, pretty much. Hold on a second.
This guy's like Jamie, huh? He's better than... Jamie's got some competition.
Right?
Yeah, this guy, I was there. I'm like, holy smokes. I mean, the guy I even told the ref, he's out before he even hit the ground. I knew he was going to be out.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll get the footage.
Head first.
He let us
Just
know.
pretty much.
I definitely think that one of his face tattoos probably fell out. That's an
Jeez.
unprecedented.
Here we go. We're going to see it firsthand.
Ooh. Oh, it's obviously
And this cat was from
it's
Canada,
it's
too.
a mismatch, obviously.
Here you go. I mean,
Here we go, here we go, here we go, here it goes.
It wasn't given to him.
Boom. Good night.
That was not given to him. He took that.
Oy, he's sleeping. He's going mimes right now.
He is memes. That is Iman Baker from CMMA, and the way that they train, the level that they train at CMMA is indicative of being able to identify some opportunity as this and capitalize. That is how they train.
Where is that?
Gardena.
Yeah,
who's the
that's
head coach there?
Chad George.
Ah, okay.
California
okay.
Mixed
Yeah,
Martial
yeah,
Arts.
yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they share space with UWFI, which is Josh Barnett's camp.
Okay.
Now that the CSW separation happened, so Barnett has his crew, and they all train as one team. So, like instances where Johnny Robles, who fought down in Epic, and that was one of the amateur fighters. Josh was in Japan with Victor Henry, so Chad cornered a UWFI guy.
I
Yeah,
see.
yeah. So they've got a nice.
It's three separate schools.
There's
It's one school, but they operate with Josh Barnett's team in there, and it's Chad's school, I believe.
right,
you know?
absolutely. And then they've got two locations.
Yeah,
Okay, so Barnett separated from
CSW.
Which is Eric Paulson.
Eric
right?
Paulson,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
They split like paths, or you don't know.
I don't know specifically
Yes,
what happened, so I don't
know
want
the
to speak on
specifics,
that.
But I know that they operate under separate pretenses. And Ben Jones, who has always been the head coach under Eric Paulson, even when Barnett was there, he is still the head coach, and he runs literally CSW almost like a team, right? He's got team captains and whatever to push the other fighters
Nice.
coming up. And Barnett has the same thing, but I think there's probably about. I would say
Johnny
7 to 8.
Robles. He's competed in my tournaments before. I know who. He
Oh,
is. Yeah.
hey, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a former California State title holder before he lost.
He's good, yeah.
Yeah, he's tremendous. Yeah, so he's one of Barnett's guys. So,
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Barnett was cornering for him. Now that I remember that, I didn't know they split.
Yeah.
What's his name? Eric Paulson. That's another guy. Talk about an OG, man.
That's an OG, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Even his style alone, that whole catch wrestling that he brought to the table, being able to mix it up. So he's a pioneer, you know.
Yeah, and it's weird, obviously no slight to jiu-jitsu, but it's kind of weird that catch wrestling, which kind of, one would argue it has the same amount of time spent or has been on top, especially in Europe, doesn't get the just due. I think when Barnett, Dean Lister at Metamortis.
Well, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was like, that kind of put people on notice. But I mean, like every time when I was watching even professional wrestling, they'd be like, "Oh, this guy catches catch can," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, he can chain holds together." I remember growing up listening to the commentary team, and every time Brett and Owen Hart came down to the ring, one was a champion, one was a high flyer, but they would talk about their dad Stu, who is a shooter back in the day, and he would put bears to sleep. And I was like, screw Spider-Man, screw Batman, I want to do the thing to put bears to sleep.
Is that true? But Bret Hart, Owen Hart's dad, was a wrestler?
Yeah, he was a shooter, Stu Hart. Yeah,
really?
Absolutely. And ran the Calgary promotion in Western Canada, essentially. Trained a litany of guys, that not only went into professional wrestling, but Dan Severn, one of the first times I got to speak with Dan Severn, he was telling me about training with Stu, and I was just like, oh my gosh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And was Stu a student of, what's the original guy from catch wrestling in Japan?
Billy Robinson. I don't think he comes from Billy Robinson's lineage, and Billy Robinson, obviously, he has a strong lineage when it comes to Barnett and Carl Gotch.
Carl Gotch, that's what I was thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of those dudes that kind of came over from either Wigan, that itself, or kind of went almost like what Lord Gracie's did, and they kind of moved out, whatever. That somebody came to Canada and taught at the YMCA, and that's how Stu basically took it up, because they basically taught for free catch wrestling at the YMCA, along with football, hockey, and baseball. Yeah.
Wow, that's.
Yeah.
Getting back to our guest, I'm curious. So you did mention, we got on early about Jeremy Williams. You trained for some years with him. Obviously, there was a time when you could no longer do that. What did you do at that time? And where was your time spent in martial arts when Jeremy kind of moved on?
That's a nice way to put it.
I hate to be so. It is what it is. We all know the story, but Apex was the thing.
That's right. Yeah.
And then it became Sub Fighter.
Right. So, personally, I started martial arts. When other kids were interested in Michael Jordan, I was interested in Bruce Lee. As far as I can remember back as a kid, as far as my mind goes back, my parents would tell me stories that I would stand in front of the TV before I could talk and try to be like Bruce. So, Bruce Lee was, for me, that was it.
Yeah.
I did traditional martial arts, karate, taekwondo, other Korean stuff growing up. And then a close friend of mine, his name is Rami Bukich, who's also one of Chris Brennan's higher level students. I don't think he didn't get his black belt ever, but he was a brown belt. He was small guy, close friend of mine in high school, and I thought I was really good with my martial arts. And after we watched the UFC at my house one night, he's like, "Oh, I've been doing jiu-jitsu." I think he'd been doing jiu-jitsu for maybe 2 years or something like that. And we went to his gym, to Next Generation. He had the key. He turned on the lights, and we rolled. He choked me out 5 times in several less than 5 minutes. Sure. It was just unbelievable, And here I thought I was so good. I've been doing karate for so many 15 years or something, and this guy just
that's the story of jiu-jitsu.
Beat my ass,
Right.
So
we all know that story, yeah.
All right, so ever since that day, I basically
we're all converts.
And he's the one. So Rami's the one who introduced me to Jeremy. And I went to a few of Chris's classes, but then he shut down soon after that, and I went with Jeremy. And I was with Jeremy for about 6 years until he passed away. But how did that? What was the?
Well, I was just curious because Jeremy did pass away. We all know. Adam Lynn, Russ Mura took on the school and carried on the flag with Sub Fighter.
Yes.
As did Tracy Hess over in another part of Southern California.
The original creator of Sub Fighter was Rick Estrada.
Rick Estrada, yes,
Rick.
of course.
Yeah, Rick is actually the man who started Sub Fighter.
Yes.
And he would come, and he and Jeremy were kind of like peers. Yeah. Although Jeremy was the only one who got his black belt, Rick was a brown belt when Jeremy died. We were all kind of like a team,
Yeah. I know that's
Jeremy was like the captain of the team, but Rick would come and do all the Sub Fighter stuff. And when Jeremy died, instead of carrying on the Apex name, they just stay with Sub Fighter. That's how that kind of. And now Rick is not really involved with it anymore, unfortunately.
Oh,
Because
and our friend Max is also a part of the early
Yeah,
days
Max.
too.
I know
That's our
Max.
homie, right?
of
Yeah,
course,
absolutely.
Max.
He
yeah.
did the show a few weeks ago, so he's also a part of that group. So we
Nice.
know a lot of stories from him.
Yeah, there you go.
You
yeah,
know?
we were all under Jeremy, and we were all like the same team. Yeah, Max was Max
IFL
was a
days.
funny guy.
It was
Yeah,
the International Fight League.
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The Condors.
Yeah,
In
man.
fact, I think that would put a lot of pressure on Jeremy because he was teaching and started to fight again, and
Yeah.
had 2 young kids. I think putting the IFL put a lot of pressure on him. Not them, but
Yeah.
like the fight itself. You know?
Everything with life and with IFL and with teaching and
To put yourself
only
in the mind
imagine.
to fight MMA. I'm sure. Have you fought MMA before?
only here in this dojo.
Okay, you have to put your mindset to like. Lots to sound stupid, but you have to be willing to kill somebody or be killed, right? If you're not there to do
That's
that,
a
then
fact.
you're not there for the right reason.
Yeah.
If you're there for the sport or to show off or whatever, you're going to probably get your ass kicked.
You're gonna lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to kill that person or accept the fact that you might get killed. If you're that, if that's not your mentality, then you shouldn't be there, as far as I'm concerned. But to put yourself in that mindset, it takes you away from just like the niceties of everyday life. You know, you kind of, at least for me, I had to be very like Spartan and just be like kind of like ruthless.
Yeah.
And I think that was hard for Jeremy because it wasn't part of his nature, and it was hard for me too. Like I hated doing that, but I think that was probably a lot of pressure to put yourself, try to be a father and a teacher, and then also try to be mean and hungry and killer at the
Ruthless.
same time. You know, it's
Yeah.
hard to find the balance. I
Yeah.
think that's why single guys are probably better off being fighters most of the time.
Sure.
You kind of get softer as we get older. You know?
Sure. No, yeah, it does happen. Absolutely. That's an interesting way of looking at it. But yeah, I mean, those were interesting times, and I loved being a part of the scene at that time. As we talk about what's going on in MMA now, what was going on in South County at that time, in South Orange County, I mean, it was very much what he's talking about with Jeremy, with Adam Lynn, Russ Mura. You got Marco Huas over there doing his thing. I mean, he was there originally teaching people what was not known at that time. You know what I mean?
That's right.
It was this
About Joker,
unknown
too.
thing. Joker came
Guyman.
after
Mike.
Guyman, yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. You know, and Rampage was down there too, you know.
Yeah.
Alan Goes. You name
Yeah,
it.
man,
Right?
it was an interesting time, and now there's a jiu-jitsu school on every corner. Before there
Yeah,
was, you know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah, I mean
That's what times have changed.
absolutely. I mean, I grew up in Inglewood for the most part, and just going down like La Brea that turns into Hawthorne. The only thing that was there in Manhattan Beach was a Greasy Baja, like right off the freeway, right off the 405. Now there's like, I mean, Systems Training Center, like there's like 5 just within.
Within a mile.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I mean, all elite gyms with legitimate lineages and what have
And they're
you.
putting up fighters.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So we see fighters coming out. That's how we know. That's how I judge legit. You putting up fighters or not, you know?
Do you think jiu-jitsu will ever? I'm curious your person will ever get to this point of MMA?
I think that's what we lost. So it's very, very difficult for me because coming from this school, there was no separation. We rolled with strikes. We just did. So when you remove that,
In your training, you rolled with strikes.
yeah, it was part of what we learned. It wasn't, you know, you just have to pass
So you
guard
just
to pass
slap
guard.
each other
It
lightly?
was pass guard,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Uh-huh.
both ways. But
Right.
you need to learn that. If you don't, the first person that punches you in the guard, you're going to open up.
Right.
So
100%.
I don't know that you can call it jujitsu without that. I mean, it is, but it's a
I think the Gracies would agree with you 100%.
and
yeah.
they should.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
should, because if you're not doing those things, you're unprepared.
Right.
And therefore,
That's the evolution of the sport aspect versus you mentioned that in the
Exactly.
beginning.
And you know, if you go back to Japanese knew this. That's why there are the terms jutsu and do, karate jutsu, the way and the art. There are 2 different things, just as sport and MMA.
So
They
which-
knew this
which is
well
the
before
more-
the Americans even had to encounter these challenges. I believe do was the way.
meaning the softer one,
It
or
is.
the,
It is more of the training and the dance. Everything is involved with the dance. Surfing is involved with the dance. Rolling is the dance. That's what flowing is. Okay, but then the jutsu part of it, you know, that's the martial.
Interesting.
That's how I perceive that, and that's what's ignored, and you can't lose that. because then you're exposed. If you're exposed, then you lose. And
It
then,
happened to judo, right?
It
used to
did,
be
it
more
did.
combative art, and now it's kind of watered down. I mean,
it
it's
evolved
amazing.
into a throwing.
Right.
We know there's more aspects to judo than most people actually get to.
Absolutely.
However, what we perceive as judo, what we see in the Olympics,
Right.
is not necessarily the
Right.
judo that we know. But Robert, bring us in, man. What we got going on?
Well, we'd like to thank one of our major sponsors here on the show. It's Our Life CBD, and we got some great footage right now. Robert,
So
hit
my
the reel.
name is Jennifer Rivera, and I am a new mom, first-time mom. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me, becoming a mom. So having a baby and being an athlete, it really was something I had to work out. And I've been using the Our Life CBD products, and it's helped me a lot. It's helped me stay on the mats and continue to train. And I made a commitment to myself, that I would get back to where I was.
My name is Ramina. I am one of the junior therapists here at Massage Matters in Irvine, California, and I've been a therapist for 10 years now.
Hi, I'm Ian Butler. I'm a professional fighter. I've been fighting professional for over 6 years. I've been fighting big organizations like Bellator MMA and Glory Kickboxing. So I'm really excited to incorporate Our Life CBD into my lifestyle for every recovery needs for me as an athlete, so my everyday use to perform at a very high level.
So we got amazing feedback from our clients with Our Life CBD. It was very potent, and the results are very long-lasting as well.
Just feeling good just overall. So yeah, I think I'm gonna just use it just throughout life, even outside of Massage Matters.
I also get a benefit from it. I leave work feeling a lot more relaxed. My muscles aren't as tense when I'm working on the clients, and it's a win-win for both of us.
My name is Jenna Soto. My son is 5 years old. He was diagnosed with Angelman syndrome at 15 months. This medication that they wanted to give him was only gonna stop focal seizures. I didn't like those options. I didn't like the choice. Do you want your son to have seizures? Or do you want him to go blind? Or do you want him to die? This was the perfect time to take on those suggestions that other people were telling us about. And that's when we met Sean. We met you at Our Life, and it was like, I feel like a friend, like we clicked. He was on Our Life CBD for, it was exactly 7 days. We had Cheerios, we had some cereal on his high chair, and I'll never forget it because it was like the best feeling ever, going back into the kitchen, and we see our son using his finger and his thumb, and he's like picking up the Cheerios and he's putting it in his mouth, and we're looking at each other, we're like, bro, he's never done that before. This product is helping my son really grow, and I started telling everybody about it. I thank Our Life from the bottom of my heart that they found us, that Sean found us, and that my son has an opportunity to do better, and that my son is gonna do so much.
From Our Life
From Our Life
From Our Life
to yours.
That's right, folks. Our Life CBD. But now it's time for Bull or No Bull with Joey the Bull. So here are some of my segments for today. Oh, well, first one. The doctors are actually saying that Conor McGregor is in the best shape of his life. I mean, Dana White says, McGregor's been training real hard like a maniac to fight Cowboy Cerrone at UFC 246. Even the docs were impressed. Conor has bulked up for this Cowboy fight. You got to remember, back in 2018, he was only weighing about 170. But now, because he's been eating his frosted Lucky Charms, I'm lying. Let me go back to that. He was weighing 155. Now he's weighing about 170. So, he's bulking up. People are kind of worried, but Dana White says, no worry, fans. You got to realize Cowboy Cerrone, he's a future Hall of Famer. He holds the most wins in the UFC history, about 23 wins so far. That was my first one. Next one, women boxing and MMA. If you know a girl named Clarissa Shields, she is getting ready for her big time in getting involved in MMA, getting ready to fight Amanda Nunes. But of course, Clarissa is actually training with, John Jones. and pretty much getting ready to make this fight happen. You know, they've been training for a while, but they said that the fight won't happen until Jones actually fights against, I think his next fight was Dominic Reyes. Is that correct? I believe so. And then once that fight is over, then we're going to possibly look at Clarissa Shields. Look her up. She's actually a hard-hitting female boxer. And then, of course, Manny Nunez said she would only take this fight unless it's an MMA-style fight. And so Clarissa's like taking the extra step. That's the reason why she's actually training with John Jones right now. And, yeah, she's excited, but she's very scared because of the fact that this is her time to get in the cage, and she's used to fight in the boxing ring. So we'll see what happens. And, of course, here we go again. Another boxer wants to fight an MMA fighter. Talking about the male division. You have Canelo Alvarez. Talking about he wants to fight Jorge Masvidal. I mean, he's been telling everybody, like, you know, he's ready. And Masvidal's like, why not? Of course. It's only boxing. And I have no problem stepping away from the cage to actually box this guy. So, of course, you know, because, you know, George has been talking about, Jorge's been talking about how he wants to take out Canelo Alvarez. And they've been training for a while. He says, well, might as well make that money because, I mean, you got to realize when Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor, when they made that big fat bill, made that big fat paycheck, he's thinking about the same thing too. So that's none of his concerns. And, of course, last but not least, YouTube sensation Logan Paul is calling out the one and only Antonio Brown for a boxing match. Apparently, Antonio Brown says, you know what, I'm down to fight him. Paul, you know, he's been up in social media with his past 2 fights that he fought on social media against some cat named KSI. Supposedly, he won the first match. Last match, I think it was a draw or something like that. But, you know, he's been talking a lot of stuff. Antonio Brown's been saying, dude, I would F you up. And, of course, Paul's like, dude, you know what? Whatever, dude. You know what? You need the money because of the fact that you've played for 2 different football teams. And he says, I'm going to drop you like the Patriots, you know, dropped your ass. So Antonio Brown's ready to rock and roll. So we'll see if that fight ever happens because Antonio Brown's like, you know what? I got nothing to do. I'm not playing football. So let's make this fight happen. But anyway, this was my first segment. We'll catch you next week with more Bull or No Bull. Signing out.
This is Zeta Zane with Our Life CBD. From our life to yours.
Boom! We're back. That was magic, Bull or No Bull.
Yeah, absolutely. So, your thoughts on the segment, you guys?
I think he's full of bull, as I always do.
Oh my gosh.
His name's Joey the Bull. What do you want?
A Toro, I guess, right?
Jose El Toro.
There you go. Mr. Bukich.
Yes.
Any thoughts?
Don't put Mr. Bukich on this guy.
My thoughts. Well, I pray for George Masvidal.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. You know what? It's not fair. These fucking guys. Excuse me.
No, come on, please.
It should go both ways. If I'm going to step into your territory, you should step into mine. There should be a contract.
Yeah.
Let's have one fight this way, one fight the other.
Yeah.
And let's see, right? That's to be only fair.
That's right.
Because otherwise, the boxer's always going to, 99% of the time, going to beat the MMA fighter.
In boxing, because that's their game.
Boxing,
yeah.
right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was one of the provisions with the Conor and Floyd fight was the fact that, you know, they would do one unboxing and then come back and do.
They did say they would.
Yeah, that was in the contract.
Really?
What happened to that?
Yeah.
I'd
well,
like to see
here's the thing. Here's the thing. So, Leonard Ellerby, who's Floyd's right-hand man, basically was like, "Hey, asking a friend, are you guys still down for that MMA match after Cowboy?" So he's just putting it out there. He tweeted that out. So I don't know, but he's definitely fanning the flames for sure.
I would love to see that.
I think we all would. We all would. It's a different game.
I would pay a lot of money to watch that.
And going back to that, that's exactly what De Lo taught us, because we had a Muay Thai school inside here too, and they would see us and they would say, "Hey, we need people to spar," and De Lo said, "Don't ever spar the boxers or the Muay Thai guys if they're not willing to do jiu-jitsu with you." So that's
right.
one thing
that's
he always
right.
told
You bring
us.
up a valid statement in that we were on the ground, but we had boxing and Muay Thai available to us at all times, and it was, we're like a family. You see, if you sweat with people in the same room,
Absolutely.
in any discipline, you wind up mixing it up. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
So, and that's how we all kind of were told. Yeah, just make sure if somebody came in just for Muay Thai, they would eventually hit the ground, and vice versa. We eventually got into the ring with them. So, or the cage. We had a cage at that time too.
Which is a pretty nice continuation of the conversation that we were having before Bull and Noble, where you said that John De La, basically, you're like, yeah, if you're rolling, you got to pass guard this way, pass guard that way, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird. Going back to your original question about will jiu-jitsu become this mainstream thing, in my personal estimation, sport jiu-jitsu, grappling for points, checking to see what the time is, how much time you have before you have to do it, and just skating over it. I don't think that will do it. I think some sort of derivative like a combat jiu-jitsu or EBI, something with flash, because obviously in any form of entertainment, whether that be in sports entertainment, whether it be football, basketball, whatever, it's all entertainment. You're fighting for somebody's dollar to put butts in the seats. So you have to have some sizzle to the steak, essentially, right?
For viewership, yes, but for practitioners, it's a little different. Just,
Right.
You know what I mean? You may never get into a cage.
Absolutely.
But you keep what you have wherever you go,
Which is, it is going to be essentially the argument and where the division lies. Because, when I first started jiu-jitsu, I thought that's what you had to have for MMA until I think it was like 6 weeks in, I was like, maybe this is its own thing. When people were going for worlds and whatever, and I was like, they're not talking about punching at all, right? So whatever derivative that ends up, being palatable for the world en masse, I think it'll piss off pretty much the purists of jiu-jitsu, much like MMA did.
I honestly believe that jiu-jitsu will become more and more mainstream.
Yeah.
And it's because that there's more opportunity to people get to closer to fighting without actually fighting. Right? And not just that, if you just look at how fast this is growing, it's going to get there. And I agree with some of the people talking about how it's not always exciting. But the more people get educated, the more people understand, the more people like it. Because there's fucking pool and all kinds of other shit on ESPN.
Exactly.
I'm like, what the fuck? The other day I was watching dudes throw axes at a.
I love that.
Yeah, but okay, how many?
My favorite.
How many?
I
of
want a
those can you
sword fight.
watch?
I want to joust. I want to throw axes. I love that.
But how many can you watch? I watched it because it was interesting at first. It was on where the sushi bar I was at. So I'm like, I'm watching it, and after like
And
5
you loved
minutes,
it 'cause
it
you
was the
kept.
same shit over and over again. I'm like, okay, now I'm over it. It's like people playing darts, right? That's a fucking thing.
It is.
I don't.
Exactly. And bowling. It's like, right? Like how
Yeah,
exciting.
that's
Or
true.
golf. God, how boring is golf? It's the worst, right? So but everybody watches it. It's on it's on ESPN, and they're sponsored by all the major companies. So if that can be a spectator sport, there's no reason why jiu-jitsu can't be a spectator sport.
Interestingly enough, it's one of the things that they say though is that it's just not enough for the viewer to watch. Like it's not an Olympic sport because it's not exciting.
Bullshit.
I agree.
Right.
I call that as well.
Well, the thing about it is, obviously we've got wrestling, right?
Yeah. And that one got kicked out of the Olympics, even though it
Right.
started the Olympics.
Absolutely, that was one of the
unbelievable.
Right,
I'm
but
appalled
it's a
by
ratings
it.
game. It's
But you can have curling.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. But
Not curling.
Right.
Curling.
Yeah. Like there's a broom, an official curling broom.
But don't get rid of wrestling.
No.
Yeah.
It's offensive, man.
So to me, I think much like women's MMA had Ronda Rousey, right? Of course, there were Gina Carano before.
Yes.
You know, like there was a litany of gals. Shayna Baszler, one of them, right?
Yeah.
But Ronda was that first big superstar, and she basically shattered that pop culture lexicon. Conor McGregor, yes, there were people that did, you know, MMA in, I mean, even out of Straight Blast Gym before him, but he was that one who really was the uptick in Irish MMA, right?
He broke the ceiling.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you could
Who
achieve.
would have thought that someone would have come out of Ireland? Right? I mean, how much?
Bono.
Because you get all this great training in SoCal and, is that me?
I think that's probably me. I'm sorry.
It's all good. And, you know, Brazil or, you know, Vegas has some great training.
Right,
you know,
absolutely.
now New Mexico with, you know, Jackson Wink and, you know,
Yeah.
Cowboy.
Yeah.
But Ireland, I didn't know.
Because it's not like he had a bunch of amazing training partners that were like also pro
To get you to that level.
Right. So he has something special for
He-
sure. He does have an
absolutely.
there's no question that he's got an innate ability, the way he moves, and
Yeah.
it's very. He's one of a kind for sure.
Yeah.
You know, he really
Absolutely.
is. Yeah.
And when you look at his, you know, his path to success, obviously there's no linear path to success, but this is a guy from, I mean, what, 4 to 6 years removed from him winning his second UFC title in Madison Square Garden. I mean, again, for that to happen, he basically conquered Cage Warriors, right? He essentially got unceremoniously fired by his dad as a plumber's apprentice, right? Like, all of these little things had to happen for him to get to where he was. But, I mean, from being fired as a plumber's apprentice to who'd have thought we would see MMA at Madison Square Garden, and he wins his second belt. When he wins two divisional Cage Warriors belts, he was like, wait until I do this in the UFC. So there's a whole thing that had to happen, right? And if you believe in that theory of outliers, I mean, he is one of a kind.
What is the theory? I don't know what the theory of outliers is.
Basically, a certain chain of events could kind of skew how things go completely. Like you in jiu-jitsu, right? Let's say if you had stuck with karate, you know, like where would you be yourself?
Kind of almost like destiny.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right. So little things happen. Absolutely, and even if a minutia is off, it can reverberate.
One little thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's most times it's who we meet. You know what I mean? Not necessarily what you know, but who you know sometimes.
Absolutely.
You know? That path now opens up.
Right. Like this.
Yeah. No, this is awesome.
Like I go to open mat randomly, and there you are. Yeah. So.
And conversely, we actually talked to Jason and didn't know exactly much about him other than World Series of Jiu-Jitsu, which is hugely why we wanted to know who he was, what he was about.
Yeah.
And then this whole other like connection to him, because we know the guys from Apex and Subfighter and, you know, and even Arena, you know what I mean? So like we're connected in other ways. Sure. It's really cool.
It's a small community.
Yeah.
Really
yeah. I get it.
Yeah. But I appreciate you having me out here.
Oh man, no,
appreciate having you. That's for sure. Right?
Yeah. Finding people like you is it's what our show's about. You know, it isn't just the big stars that we occasionally can get or the medium stars. It's the people that built the house that everybody rolls in. You know what I mean?
Do you guys travel to gyms a lot of the time and do those?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're
gonna come down to Cho's. That's what we want to do. We'll do it.
Cho's.
We absolutely will.
You should do a live stream or something of the tournament next.
Absolutely, we'll be happy to do that. So
yeah,
we'll talk to Robert, our producer, and that would be something that'd be very easy. But and we even talked to Eric Vanderlee about this. We'll get down to Cho's and take the class and then talk about what makes it different. That's what Gym Crashers really was. We went out to Chad George, went out to Balquatch, went to Nam Fams, we went to King's MMA, and got rolled up by these guys, but. There's always something different about every dojo, every gym, every training academy. One's got sambo, one's got jiu-jitsu, one's catch wrestling, you know, one's got strikes, one doesn't.
Balquatch was also from Chris Brennan.
Yes.
And,
really?
Yeah, and Nam Fan was with, he was actually originally, I think, with, the guy passed away from cancer. What was his name?
I don't know which one, Nam.
But anyway, he was with Jeremy after that. But what is the guy before? What is the guy's name?
The one from Ventura.
Brazilian.
It's a Brazilian guy.
I'll think of his name in a minute. But anyway.
It's strange, but the roads lead back to John De La O a lot. I get that all the time.
It's interesting how that all works.
If you're from Orange County, and I am, it's just no joke that it ended up here.
Is
you
it
know?
Ron Turner from 10th Planet?
Yes.
Also, he told me that, right?
And
So there
Casey
you go.
Casey Halstead from 10th Planet as well.
Oh, Casey too?
Yes.
See, there you go.
Yeah, they both were right here. Andy Ballmore, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So John DeLo is the OG, huh?
He really is. I mean, everybody has their own perspective on what John contributed to them or helped them, accomplish. That's their business. But the truth in itself is that John has been kind of that person for a lot of people. Controversial guy, I have to say. He's my own instructor, and I know he knows this about himself. Fallouts and those things happen within families and relationships of all kinds. But John, a lot of the roads lead back to John DeLo.
Yeah, he's Mr. Go Fuck Yourself a lot.
Well, that comes from Robert Samerson, who never says that, so that sums it up right there.
That's true, right, Miguel?
It's
John
a fact.
John DeLo is Mr. Go Fuck Yourself all the time, huh? Yeah.
Miguel too. Miguel Perez too.
one of the original gym crashers.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's our muscle.
Yeah.
We bring him with us. He'll roll with whoever, so we love that about him.
I thought that was your muscle.
Well, maybe in years past. Well, when he walks, it's kind of a roll.
It's a roll. It is. It's rolling live, right?
I don't got time for that stuff, man. I just knock people out.
Did you ever train jiu-jitsu at all?
No, man, because I was too busy knocking people out in the ring back in the day.
That's bull or no bull. Did you train with John DeLo?
No, I'm just...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, no, hold on. Okay, to tell you the truth, back in the day, I didn't know anything about John. I don't give a shit. But I'm just saying, I used to train with Mike Guyman and of course Joe Moreira and all those guys
Joe Moreira,
back at the South Coast Kickboxing and Jiu-Jitsu.
My first jiu-jitsu class, I was 13 years old with Joe Moreira.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Right after UFC 2, I watched. I want to learn, but I was too young.
But
I was the only kid in the class, and I was just.
He's a great guy. The accent, he has a very strong accent sometimes, and that's when I start forming my brother and I formed our own class. But back to what you're saying. So how long you trained with Joe for a while?
Me, like 2 months, and
Okay.
I was literally the only kid. I was 13, and everyone else was grown men, and
That's pretty
I
cool.
didn't feel
I just feel bad because everybody shares a story about working with John. I never touched the guy, but I was I'm his ring announcer for all of his wrestling events.
Okay.
That's it, pretty much.
Yeah, that's cool. So we never did find out. So you were with Jeremy. Jeremy obviously passed on, and then you moved on to Arena. Is that?
So no, Jeremy. So Jeremy passed in what month?
It was
May of 2007.
Exactly.
And I had just gone to Hawaii. A friend of mine, I was teaching jiu-jitsu at Camp Pendleton with Rick Estrada.
Mm-hmm. There was an Apex at Camp Pendleton. They called it Apex. I rolled there.
Rick and I were the two teachers there.
That's why they call. I never knew that's why because
Were you in the Marines?
No, I wasn't a Marine. They just invited me to come roll at a blue or a purple belt, and they weren't that studied in jiu-jitsu yet, so they were hard to tap because they're Marines. But they're like, we're Apex. I'm like, it's kind of funny. There's an Apex up the street too.
So Rick,
crazy,
because Rick had just moved there and it worked out. So Rick and I were teaching there for about a year.
Yeah.
And then there were some issues with women, and I kind of was just like, I need a break. And my friend said he had a house in Hawaii. Let me go stay there.
It's a great break.
I went to Hawaii. It was a fantastic break.
Yeah.
I went there, and I just was going to take like a 3-week vacation and just kind of clear my head a little bit. And then I started training, and I met some guys, and within 3 weeks, they're like, let's open up a gym, and it was amazing. So
was it Sonny from Dog the Bounty Hunter? He
get
trains
the
it.
fuck
Yeah,
out
right.
of-
Sonny,
I was teaching at Sonny's gym.
No way. What?
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
At Kona Boxing Club.
Of
I was
course.
teaching there because there was no jiu-jitsu school in Kona at
No,
that time.
I mean if you're a fighter and you're on Kona, if you're
Yes.
not seeing Sonny, you're gonna be fighting on the beach.
Funny. That's amazing. So I went to Sonny's gym, started training there, and then some other guys wanted to do jiu-jitsu, so they said, hey, we have a space available at this place. It all came together, and the day I signed the lease for the new space, it was like literally I've been there for 3 weeks, met all these people. I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning and I got a phone call that Jeremy had killed himself.
Yeah.
And like I had like the best day of my life
Yeah,
the day
yeah.
before, and the worst day of my life the next day.
Wow.
It was like went from one high extreme to and
Yeah.
for several years after that, man, it was really like because he was one of my best friends. Like not only my coach, but my like. One of my best, like it's like somebody you look up, like probably like John. Like, you really look up to this person.
Absolutely.
He was only a couple years older than me, and he had like a family and just everything that you thought that you would want, and then just throw it all away.
That time period
I couldn't
too,
wrap my head around it.
in your life where you were, you know what I mean? That's also a delicate time, right? You're
Exactly.
young and-
Yeah, 26 or 27.
Yeah,
whatever I
so there's
was.
this guy that's kind of a leader as well. you know?
Exactly. Yeah, and it was so that took me a while to get past that. It still affects me now, probably
Yeah.
subconsciously. But
I hear that from all
Yeah.
the sub fighter guys. I really do.
Yeah.
You know, they were so connected in the heart to them.
Right. Yeah.
Max.
He was an exceptional person. Yeah.
Mhm.
Not just in his physical ability, but just
Sure.
as a person. So I went to Hawaii, and I just mentally wasn't prepared for anything at that point.
Yeah.
And I kind of just put a backpack on, and I traveled through Europe, and it's kind of just my own Ronin stuff for
That's
a
pretty cool.
while. And then
I like the term Ronin.
Yeah, because
Living
I
it.
was right. You're the
Yeah.
masterless samurai, right?
Yeah. That's when you give you the keys to what you ever got to figure out. That's it.
Exactly. And my friend was training in San Diego with Barrett and Andy Wong.
Yeah.
And I had known Andy he'd come up and train with us at Apex once in a while. So I went to San Diego, started training with them, and then Andy and Barrett gave me a position to teach in Tucson at Undisputed.
Okay.
And I went there for about a year, and then they gave me a position teaching in Taiwan. I went to Taiwan for a year and taught there,
Wow.
which was pretty cool. And
Taipei Airport looks like a super mall.
it's pretty unbelievable,
Right?
huh? Yeah. So I came back in 2010, and then started studying acupuncture. So I'm an acupuncturist now, aside from a jiu-jitsu teacher. I'm better at jiu-jitsu than I am at acupuncture.
Oh, 10 points. 10 points.
Except he has a needle, run.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a great thing to study, though, because, again, with jiu-jitsu, we study the anatomy, but even more intrinsic with acupuncture.
Right, nerves and...
But understanding specifically what you're releasing and doing. And
Yeah. First of all, you learn about the energetics of the body, and however deep you want to go with that, whether you believe. But
Kundalini.
Yeah, right. But you feel sometimes these things where you can't quite explain it,
Yeah.
And but jiu-jitsu, martial arts, and they say like the true martial arts master should be able to be a healer as well,
I love that. No, I strongly believe that.
So that's the path I was trying to go down. But so that, and then anyway, I started. Then I came back, started teaching in San Diego at the arena, and actually Ronnie Yahya got me. Do you know who Ronnie Yahya is?
No.
You guys don't know who
Yeah,
Ronnie
the fighter,
Yahya?
right?
He's a UFC fighter.
I know the name, but I don't know him.
Top 5 jiu-jitsu guys I've ever trained with.
Wow.
Barrett Yoshida, Jeremy Williams, Ronnie Yahya, Hickson Gracie, obviously.
Yeah.
That guy's obviously amazing. That goes without saying. There's a couple. Yeah, but Ronnie Yahya is probably the best, if not one of the best I've ever rolled with.
Wow.
And he's very small too.
Yeah, he is.
His jiu-jitsu is like it's like something I can't explain. He's very small, but if he gets on top of you, it's like if Barrett gets you in the crucifix, you're not getting out. If Hani gets on top of you, you're probably not getting up. That guy is unreal, man. He's so good. He's a perfect placement of his energy and his weight. He doesn't get tired.
Wow.
Like he just like I just rolled him a couple weeks ago, and it's unreal, man. He's very Ronnie. If you're listening to this, I love you, man. Your jiu-jitsu is unbelievable.
Damn, right on.
I think I have the father-son thing with John Dello because I can never get to a point where I'm aggressive.
Yeah.
It's just that he taught me everything I know.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I just
Yes.
can't get over that. I'm like super respectful of the fact that you're a ball of clay in the man's hands.
Jeremy did a good job of getting me past that. I will give that to him too. He would because he knew that I was not going. We were training for MMA fights, and he knew that I wasn't giving him my 100%. So he would purposely do things to irritate me, to get that out of me against him. But he's your teacher, so you want to respect him.
Absolutely.
You don't want to fight or hit him. I never want to hit him in the face or anything like that. But then he would purposely fuck with me so that he'd bring that out of me. But if I could hit him, I could hit anybody.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but he knew. I think he knew that. Because he knew that I was I'm not really an aggressive, violent person.
Yeah.
But to fight, you have to bring that out of you, right?
Absolutely.
So he did a good job of doing that. When I think a lot of other coaches would not let you cross that barrier.
Yeah.
He wanted me to cross that barrier, which was interesting. Yeah. And he would like if we were wearing headgear, he'd turn it around and slap me. It's stuff to piss me off,
I love that.
I couldn't get the headgear, and he beat me up while I was trying to fuck my headgear up. So, all right, I'm ready, and then we would fight, and that was fun.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
Which, I mean, we had Ben Jones from CSW, and the vaunted Badger Slap, right? Ben Jones, as well as Josh Barnett and his crew, they literally will slap the guys before they go in the cage, right?
Just to
yes, exactly.
Smart.
Because
I think there's a psychology to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you get the adrenaline dump. get the shit slapped out. You can't think about it, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, so
That's my thinking.
Yeah,
Some people actually don't turn it on until it's on them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
yeah,
they're
for
very
sure.
reactive.
Yes.
Okay?
yes.
They're not going to strike first.
Right.
So then that's what changes the game. Coach brings them into reality and then sicks the dogs on them. So
Yeah, that's what my wife does to me before I get all crazy. She slaps me first, and I'm like, yeah. Arr.
man,
Reminds me of
see the ripple effect on that.
Yes.
Better watch out, world. Here I come.
Thank you,
literally.
Joe. Thank you.
Whoa. I didn't want him to come. Right
You don't want to
at this
envision
moment.
that. Don't.
Anyway,
no. Jesus Woods. I don't know what goes on in your guys' minds.
I don't know.
My goodness. Clean it up.
So, I mean, when you step into the arena down in San Diego,
Yeah.
like who's there? Obviously, Barrett Rashida's there.
So Barrett wasn't there.
Oh, he wasn't?
Barrett was still teaching Undisputed. Hani introduced me to Lucas, who's the
Oh,
owner.
Barrett
here.
was out in Tucson.
Barrett was in Undisputed in San Diego.
Oh, San
There was
Diego.
another gym called
Okay,
Undisputed.
okay,
The
okay,
original
okay.
Undisputed.
Gotcha.
And Undisputed. So I was teaching at the arena, and then Undisputed had a falling out with Barrett. It was a financial thing. They were basically just weren't paying him what it was worth.
I get it,
And
yeah.
they closed down. They had and he
Right.
went and started to teach at the UFC gym,
Mm-hmm.
and I arranged for him and Lucas, the owner of the arena, to meet, and it worked out. So they hired him, and that's when I moved here because my wife was pregnant and we needed to move back up here to be closer to family. So I was going to be leaving. So it just, you know how the universe just kind of things
Yeah,
unfold as they should, you know.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
and now he's been there now for about 4 or 5 years, and he's the head coach, and he's doing really well. So I mean, he's. How old is Barrett? 48 or something. He's still competing with the
He's
best
my
in the
age.
world. You know? Still tapping the best in the world. Yeah, he's a real man.
Right? Yeah, he's a real man. That's for sure.
Yeah, he'll literally be teaching a class and his knee will like pop out of socket, and he'll just like
Pop it.
okay, and he'll go back to teaching. You know, it's like
That's
the
a John
guy-
Del O story. His hip will pop out.
believe-
And he'll put it right back in. I'm like, oh.
Oh, gee, I'm
Right?
telling you, there's something about those guys. You
And
know?
then people with the cauliflower ear, he's back there draining it. Like he's a doctor.
Yeah.
Hey, come on over here.
Yeah, I've done that.
Wow.
Yeah, Barrett. I'm not exaggerating. He teaches 5 classes a day, and he rolls in every single class.
Real.
5
living
times
it.
a day. Can you
Living
imagine? I don't roll sometimes 5 times in a week.
Sure. Right.
Yeah, he rolls 5 times a day.
Yeah.
You know, it's unbelievable.
It's amazing that his bone structure, that his cartilage, that everything just holds, right? Because there's a lot of wear and tear with that.
And I don't know if this is from jiu-jitsu or it's a natural thing, but Barrett's wrists are. He's a small guy,
Massive.
but his wrists
Yeah,
are huge.
they're massive.
And I also saw. It looks like pictures of Elio Gracie had similar like.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's from like doing stuff with
Just-
the gi or whatever.
Bone growth, yeah, it could
but
be.
it could be right because Elio seemed to have large wrists for how small he was.
Right,
and
exactly.
Barrett definitely has like much larger wrists than he should have. But I mean, I don't know. What that
Ezekiel
comes from.
choking the shit out of people over the years. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's probably what it is. Yeah.
Fact. You know, it's an interesting thing talking about Elio. So we have Carlos Gracie, who's learning jiu-jitsu, and then Elio Gracie, who had refined it because of his limitations due to sickness and illness and things
Right.
that incapacitated him to the point where he wasn't able to actually train. He was watching, but developing.
Right.
But there is a lineage of Carlos Gracie people
Yes.
that don't actually come from Elio.
Yes.
Right, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Gracie Baja, basically.
Right?
Yeah.
So knowing that whole thing too, therein lies, and there's other guys too, like Oswaldo Fada,
Oh yeah.
Nova União.
Yeah. Footlock guy.
Right, the footlock guys,
Yeah.
right, and he was, beating the Gracie Challenge, which they don't talk about, but
Right.
they say that he beat them.
Yeah.
So when you know the lineages of those guys that were coming from Brazil, maybe therein lies where sport developed, right? Because those were the guys that were challenging it. They were the only ones around.
Absolutely.
They were challenging
Yeah.
each other. So,
What you mean, like changing the rules of the sport to?
Yeah.
because I hear about early days of tournament fighting, and they leaned on, favoritism, preferential treatment, things of those things that were happening
100%.
in those days.
Yeah.
So, and I hope it doesn't go on anymore, but maybe those things are what developed the sport as we know it. And that's why we're seeing combat jiu-jitsu have a big comeback right now with open hand strikes. Because you can still break someone's face open with a palm strike.
Yeah, man, you can hit harder than with the closed fist because you're not going to damage your knuckle. Yeah,
exactly right.
100%.
And you can see who understands it and who doesn't, because there's a slap and then there's a palm strike.
Right.
There's a difference.
The Boss Rutan versus the
Yes.
the bitch slap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I see a bunch of bitch slaps, and all of a sudden you see,
Wow. Yeah.
and I see the body movement and the follow through, and it's like that dinosaur that locks its neck down. You know what I mean? Follows right through.
Yeah.
And you see the head hit the floor, and it bounces. You're
Yeah,
like, oh
yeah.
my god.
Yeah, that's
What did you say?
Pearl Gonzalez.
Pearl's a great person. Yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu. She was just.
Where does she train, Pearl Gonzalez? I mean, I
Planet
follow her.
Pearl trains out of 10 Planet. She's a 10 Planet freak.
She's an amazing jiu-jitsu practitioner with an understanding of the striking game.
Yes, her strikes definitely. I believe in Monterey it was amazing. Probably one of the best fights of the night. Her strikes every single time, as you were saying, she was hitting with the open palm and pushing through, and the girl's head was coming up off of the mat. And the craziest thing, aside from the strikes, she finished off the fight in an armbar and broke her arm.
Really?
The girl did not tap. The girl is a beast. The other girl who she was fighting. What was crazy is that we obviously were there live watching it. But what was crazy is her arm was totally gone.
Wow.
And she wanted to stay up there. The Mexican girl who she had armbarred wanted to stay up there because she, out of respect to Pearl, until Pearl actually got her hand raised, then walked off.
That's a samurai.
That
dude.
is gangster.
That's the heart of the
man.
samurai.
She got her arm broken. She didn't want to get off the stage. She
didn't
stayed
wanna
up.
leave the stage until Pearl got her
Wow,
arm raised
that is
because she wanted
that's
to
gangster.
Find out her name. We need to talk to her.
I'd like to talk to that girl.
Yeah,
That's
that was
amazing.
awesome, man.
You know, the women that you say like she didn't tap. The women seem to have. Well, first of all, there's a much smaller percentage of them who compete.
Right.
But the ones who do, they seem to be much more emotionally attached to like they won't give up. Like
Absolutely.
they're fighting for their life. They're not there for the sport. It seems like like they'll let their arm break. Like, and she probably would have kept fighting if they'd let her. You know, I'm sure she would have.
Well, Carla Esparza her last fight when she fought Alexa Greco, right? When she was in Mexico City. Carla got an armbar. I mean, I watched that fight, and we work with Carla, and she got armbarred pretty deep. And I'll be honest with you, when I saw it, I thought the fight was over, and she did not tap, pushed through, ended up winning the fight. Once again, going back to what you're saying, you know, not giving up, looking at it as, you know what, this is life or death.
Right.
And you didn't. I didn't tap. You didn't break my arm. So let's see what happens next.
Right.
That's pretty badass.
That's very badass. Yeah.
Because let's be real, the majority of men, the majority of people will tap.
Yes.
Right,
You
know.
So
you live to fight another day. There's two sides of that. Tap because you want to live to fight another day. Don't tap because you got the heart of the warrior.
That's
Right.
instant in a way. That's the way he talks about it.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
You know, he talks about like I'm there to die. Like I was willing to die in the rings, but that's the truth. Like if you're not, I don't think if you're not there to do that, you're probably not there for the right reason. Although if I will admit, if I had gotten caught in an arm lock, I would have tapped. I would have tapped for sure. I'm not that kind of guy.
If you do other things other than MMA, jiu-jitsu, if you're playing a guitar, if you're paddling, if you're doing anything, you're going to need your limbs.
Right.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
So if it is just a hobby or whatever, it's part of my life. You know what I mean? That's why we're here. We would not be here doing this show had we not all had jiu-jitsu. Had I not had John in my life, I wouldn't know anybody.
Right.
You know, because jiu-jitsu has brought me to where I am today. So with that understanding, it does mean the world to me. But there are other things that I do that I love too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
And I want to be able to do them when I'm, up there in age. So
When you're Elio Gracie's age.
that's right. I want to be Elio sitting on the beach with a ukulele, and not all messed up.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, and it's crazy. So I mean, one of my favorite fight leagues is Invicta because women's MMA, even after the auspices of Ronda Rousey, they still find themselves in a place where like people don't want to watch it. It's very much the same.
I love
place.
watching the women fight.
I do too.
But
I absolutely love it.
Categorically,
I do
prefer
too.
it.
yeah, absolutely. But categorically, it's literally what UFC was 25 years ago. When banned from TV and whatever, and
But now they've got a little past that. But I'm with you.
Yeah. So,
it's grown, and their skill level has grown tremendously.
Right. And not only that, but at any time that you are at a card, even a local one, if there's a female fight on the card, that one is usually the one that's stealing the show.
It's the exciting one.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Agreed.
100%.
Yeah.
Agreed.
There's no lay and pray in that one. You're either getting knocked out or subbed, and there's no two ways about it.
It seems like that in my tournaments too. Like,
Yeah, tell us about World Series of Jiu-Jitsu. Now that we come up to this,
Absolutely.
your experiences there, the ladies, the guys, what brought you to that? Let's find
At
out.
the last tournament, there was like some high level guys, you know, a couple black belts, and they had a good matches, but nothing very exciting. Then you get these two girls, like two blue belts.
Yeah.
The crowd is screaming.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's like, wait a minute, really?
That's blue belt jiu-jitsu.
Everyone's there.
Yeah.
So it's the emotional connection. I think with when the women, not only from the two fighters themselves, but the people involved seems to be really strong. You know, it was very interesting.
Laguna Beach High School.
What
Is
about
that where it was?
no, that was in Florida. The one I'm talking about.
Oh, in Florida.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So I do them all over, as you probably saw earlier.
Yeah,
But,
you're nationwide.
working to get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my plan is to do 3 events in each major city every year. So and then grow hopefully more than that. And to put money into the guys' hands instead of keeping it all for ourselves. You know.
Very nice.
That's I mean that's ridiculous. I won't mention any names, but there are other tournaments where you pay money to compete. You train. You spend your countless hours on the mats. You win. You fight 10 guys. You win. They give you a 30-cent medal and a good job. Thanks for your $150.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So we got to change that. That's what I'm trying to change.
I think that's great. So how did you get started in that part of it? Where was the very first World Series of
Very
Jiu-Jitsu?
good question. So one of the other things I used to do, I used to play poker in high school, in college.
Okay.
That was how I got my throws through college, or partially at least.
Same as my producer here.
Yeah.
Even though he skipped college and went right to poker.
Do you still play now?
I am retired.
Me too.
I started doing this freelance stuff. So I quit my regular job. So I took my bankroll and I invested it all into everything you see.
Good for you. Oh, really?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
There you go, man.
It's a success
I
story.
3 years
respect it.
ago. 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago, I quit my corporate job, started this idea that I had of podcasting, starting a media company, and then I took some of the money I got from my work. I had a choice. You can either apply and get a different position, or you can get laid off and collect some money. So I said, I'll collect the money. I got my poker bankroll. It was a little bit. So I was
Good for you.
I can invest in myself, so that's what I did.
Good for you. I respect that.
He did.
Yeah.
I sweat every day.
I'm sweating too. I assure you, we all are.
Yeah.
But that makes life interesting, you know.
Yeah, but I don't miss the 12-hour sessions, just being at
God.
casino constantly, just
For me, it was the swings, to have huge cash and then just get bad beats or whatever it was, just like my personality, I can't handle that. But my friend he's very, very level-headed. I've seen him. I'm not exaggerating. I've seen him win $200,000 pot.
Oh no!
And I saw him lose a $900,000.
Oh my God!
In one hand online.
Online.
He was
even
playing
worse.
he was playing at the same table with what's that? Dan Negreanu. Because it was high level. But I was just watching this, and $900,000 just goes to the other guy, and I'm just like, that's a lifetime of savings in one hand. One hand.
Yeah.
So
I mean, my biggest hand was 7,000 online on full tilt.
Yes.
That was my biggest hand. I didn't lose that hand. I won that hand. It was Jackson 10s. I was like, I was right, dude. And it held.
$7,000 is not a.
But that was my
pittance, man.
biggest. That's
Good
my
for
biggest
you.
online hand.
That's a big one, man.
That's 7,000's a lot.
Live hand, I think. The biggest pot I probably pulled was probably 3,200.
Okay.
Live.
That's about me too. Yeah.
I've lost larger than that actually on a hand.
I believe
I've
it.
lost 6,500.
What does that look like over the course of a month of a guy who's in the game? Does that look like you're shuffling around 40 grand a month?
For me, it was about 20.
20?
I think.
Okay.
I think that's probably
That's
like
big money,
I
though.
think my peak was like 55,000.
Some people don't make 20 grand a month.
Most people don't make 20 grand
Right?
a month. Yeah.
This guy.
No, but
It's hard though. It's hard. Like being sometimes it's like a 12 to 17 hour shift.
I saw you there. I know.
Yeah.
I was blown away that I walked in, and we look like brothers, so they feed me.
Yeah.
I get free Chinese food because my brother's playing poker. I'm living it up. I'm living it up. I don't dare spend $100, right?
It's the best. Yeah, that's the best part.
I thought it was great.
He liked that we walk in.
I was like a king walking in. Like I don't gamble. I'm too scared.
Yeah,
I earn every dollar I've ever made.
You like the VIP room though.
Yeah. Oh hell yeah.
I love to play poker. I really do.
We're gonna have to get a little poker game going amongst the homies.
We'll do a low buy, just for fun.
You know what's really cool? There's a place called the Fish House that have a little poker club.
Okay.
And they do a series starting in July for the World Series. So it's like a little club. So I think the buy-ins for the monthly tournaments are like $200, $150, and they just rank points in the top 10 at the end of the season. They send them.
I think that starts the bug.
And you get paid out. It's about 30 people every Saturday.
So
every other Saturday.
That's kind of my plan for the World Series. Is eventually I want to have one main event, right?
And satellites.
And satellite tournaments leading up to it.
That's awesome.
That's the plan for it. But I'm just trying to get the name out there with doing the smaller tournaments, so paying them out the day of. I tried doing that last year actually to do the large buy or small buy-in with the large main event at the end. I just think our name wasn't big enough, so nobody kind of knew what we were about. So I'm trying to get people to understand what we're about, and then maybe in 3 or 4 years to be able to do the large maybe like first place will be like $50,000 or something like that.
Just imagine though, like you have like a whole 3 weeks of different types of events. Like in like how they do it, the series, like all these, that'd be pretty crazy. Just some jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
that's where he's going. It sounds like so.
And honestly, you could. It doesn't just have to be a no-gi sub only, or so it could. You could have because like with poker, right? You have Omaha, you have Texas Hold'em. With jiu-jitsu, you have ADCC rules, you have IBJJF rules, you have. So we can do all different kinds of rules. It
EBI
doesn't
rules.
Have to be right now, we only do EBI rules.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think it's from a spectator perspective the most exciting.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah.
We're all on board
Eddie
with
hit
that.
the nail on the head with that one for sure.
For sure.
It's the best rule set. From my perspective as a competitor, I hated losing by points.
Yep.
Tap
It
me
changes the game.
Yeah, I hate it when guys would just like take one takedown and just hold. You know, like that's come on, let's get the fuck. This is stupid.
In the butt
Are we wrestling
scooting.
or are we doing submission fighting? You know.
Yeah.
In the butts. Yeah.
Which I'm really glad that you went back to World Series of Jiu-Jitsu because we heard poker, fish house, payout, and I was like, I don't want to get me too'd on this fucking thing. So
Me too. You're gonna get you too'd because there's
yeah.
no me in that you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so no, but I mean, in terms of the complexity of rules, right? And so Mark Tullius, who was formerly of the 10 Planet Youth Center with Jonathan Santa Maria, he was talking about basically competing in a catch wrestling tournament, right? And jiu-jitsu, most of the advantages come off of your back, right? Well, he was on his back and he got pinned. And that was it. Yeah.
What? You mean he
in a catch wrestling deal?
Oh, different rules. Rules. So the shoulders got pinned.
His shoulders got pinned to the mat.
Really?
And he lost.
I didn't know that was a catch wrestling rule.
Yeah, that's a catch wrestling, and that's kind of the derivative.
So as long as your shoulders aren't on the mat, you're okay.
Absolutely.
You can still fight off your back.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But you don't. You don't
that's
have
good
to.
because you know what it does? It creates movement. It makes you. You can't
absolutely.
just stay. I like that. Actually.
It's always
Try to pin a
always
wrestler.
static.
Try to pin a real good wrestler, right?
Right,
You got to get their
right.
hips pinned first.
Right.
You know.
That's an interesting rule. I
Yeah.
never
So
heard of.
I mean, different rule sets, and I think, kind of going back to what you were saying in terms of like, is something really catching fire in terms of the jiu-jitsu world that is palatable to the world of mass?
Right.
I think it's something like that, a combination of maybe catch wrestling and EBI rules.
Yes. So I think the guy who's doing it right now is Seth Daniels with Fight to Win.
Yes.
He makes his events. It's exciting. Like
It is.
It's an event.
It's a
right?
stage.
Right.
Right. You're a rock star coming out. They walk them out.
Exactly.
You're on a elevated stage.
Platform.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
It's very
so
nice.
The way his production ideas are on point. He's definitely
Love it.
ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can kind of combine the difference with because he does, I think he does like payouts, but only like for tickets you sell. It's kind of like MMA.
Sure,
you know?
sure.
So we're doing.
It's
the
already
cash-
made. That model's
Yeah.
already made, so he gets it.
Yeah, exactly. But if we can combine the excitement of his tournaments with the cash prizes that we're doing,
love that.
That's the goal for what I'm trying to do right now.
And the thing is, Seth told me he came from a concert background.
Yeah.
He produced concerts, and that's.
He's a promoter, yeah.
Right.
It makes sense. But the excitement comes because there's a face-off. there's a huge screen.
Right.
You know, and so even if you don't know the people, you're already kind of in your mind. You have a judgment of whether or not, oh, this guy looks like this guy, or the opponents. Something draws you to one or the other.
Right.
So then you're interested.
Right.
Absolutely.
You know.
Plus, the alcohol doesn't hurt.
I love that. You know.
You can't go to get drunk at the IBJJF, but you can get drunk at Seth's Fight to Win.
And there's a little smoke in the air too, so if you just walk around long enough, you're gonna get hungry.
Hey,
That's right.
I haven't, but I'd like to compete in that. Actually,
Yeah,
that'd be
that's-
awesome. I love that. That's my favorite way to roll. So.
Yeah, that's I did it too, and it's man, I couldn't walk out of there.
Really?
It just yeah.
I love
second-handed.
Yeah. I should.
But Seth does Subversive too, right?
Well, Mike puts it on. He CBD you and me.
Okay, CBD and me does
and
Subversive.
He has Seth as a partner.
Got it.
To put it
Because
on.
they're very similar. I love them both, but I noticed that you know
I mean,
the production level is
Yeah, Gary handles the production.
got it.
I'm not too sure if they go to Flow. I don't know if the feed.
It went to Flow last time.
Flow. Okay.
Flow Grappling, if you're looking at these events, if you're looking to check them out afterwards, Flow Grappling's the place to catch them.
And the funny part was,
Microphone, Robert.
So Seth, Mike contacted us for the last Subversive. He said, "Hey, can you guys help us out? Do some camera work, things like that."
I loved it.
So we get there, and then they're saying, "Okay, who's doing the interviews? Blah blah blah. Post this and that for Subversive." I was like, "Okay, we thought we were just helping them set up," and all of a sudden he goes, "Where's your guy? He's right here." Well, he's got to help the new girl. So it was Kayla Patterson, and we didn't know it was her, but we had no clue that Seth told Mike that John was gonna put Kayla under his wing. And we didn't know. He didn't even know that Seth knew his name.
I was kicking
Like,
my feet. I'm like, I want to do my interviews right there, and they're like, no, she gets that spot. I was like, who's she? I didn't know who I was working with. This beautiful girl from San Diego, that high level jiu-jitsu practitioner, and well known, making a name for herself and being a leader amongst ladies. She's just a perfect example for young ladies to follow. And here I'm kicking my feet, dumb old man, I want my spot, and I wind up being partnered with her. So we're just, we hit it off, and it went really, really well. So it was a fun night. That's what happens when I start complaining.
Kayla Patterson? Is
Yes, please follow her. Yeah, she's amazing. Atos. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Nikki Sullivan. They have quite the crew down there in San Diego, man.
They sure do.
She's a brown belt.
Yeah, Brown.
San Diego's got probably the best jiu-jitsu, maybe in the world, honestly.
Vibe, yeah,
If Brazil, obviously, there's the Brazil high level too, but
Yeah.
San Diego has a really high level jiu-jitsu.
No, I agree.
Southern California.
Studio 540. I don't know if you've been there.
Sure.
Encinitas,
I've never been there, but I know what it
Joel
is,
Tudor
yeah.
and those guys.
Sure.
The way they roll down there, it's a different vibe. I dig that. When you came from Marina, I was like, you're living it.
It's a good place to be.
I
I'll tell you
imagine.
that.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Very good
Circled
place.
the parking lot a couple times.
I think there's a hostel too that Dean Lister puts on at one of the beaches down there, a jiu-jitsu hostel.
Oh, does Dean Lister do
Yeah, I
that?
think it's Lister,
I didn't
yeah.
know that. Yeah, I know there is a jiu-jitsu hostel there.
There's
yeah,
one
right
in
on the
TJ.
beach.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. There's a T1
Yeah,
one.
speaking of TJ, I rolled a lot in Adelitas and did a lot of
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu there too
That's
myself.
not jiu-jitsu.
Did you?
Oh, my bad.
That smelled like Shih Tzu.
Smoking your chicken.
Choking my chicken.
Anyways, when is the next World Series of Jiu-Jitsu event?
February 1st in 10th Planet Costa Mesa.
10th Planet
Oh.
Costa Mesa. So we're looking at February 1st is just a couple weeks away,
Yes, sir.
and it's going to be gi and potentially no gi if we get
Gi
enough.
and no gi.
It is already
it's
gi,
gonna-
no gi.
They'll be on the same day. But
Okay.
if we have too many no gi guys, we're gonna put gi on the Sunday.
That's just
But I
awesome.
think we'll be able to do it all in one day.
Okay.
And there'll be some pretty good cash payouts and some good fights. And then the next one will be February 22nd in Oregon.
In Oregon,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, that was a good event last time we had up
Okay.
there too, right in Newport. It's like right on the coast. It's a beautiful spot. So man, Oregon's really nice.
Yeah, the Oregon coast is like no other. So
Yeah, it's really nice.
it's
Sounds like a
dramatic.
Gym Crasher road trip right there.
It sounds like we do our live CBD Gym Crashers free admission media.
Let's do it.
Road trip to.
We'll put
World Series of
GoPros in the
Jiu-Jitsu.
van and just make
Let's
it a
do
lie.
it. I'm down.
I'm
I'm
down,
seriously
too.
down.
We can stream. He talked about us streaming it.
I would love to. If you guys would like to, I'd love to have you guys stream it. That'd be awesome.
We'll talk. We'll talk.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
We're gonna go visit Cho's Academy. We're gonna do a gym crash down there while he's teaching.
I teach it on Monday nights.
I am teaching Monday.
That's nice for me. 'cause
Let's
I'm-
do it.
We're
Yeah.
on it. We're on
I
it.
teach Monday, Wednesday nights at 7:30.
And you know what? Shout out to Eric Vanderlee. We got your homie.
By the way,
in the house.
Eric's I think in Amsterdam right now.
Yes, he is.
I love
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Expecting a child, isn't he?
Is
I
he
don't-
really?
I don't know
I
anything
know
about
he's
that.
in a-
Oh,
I know nothing about that.
yeah.
No.
he's
I gotta get somebody in trouble here.
Can we get a DNA test?
There you go. So,
Not-
Interesting.
yeah, so there you go.
Now we're talking about Monday nights in Laguna.
Yeah.
Well, shit. I might as well show up, and I might.
Are you gonna roll? You should sign up.
Yes. We need to get Joey to roll.
No.
We want to. Maybe we should see the transformation of Joey the Bull.
Yeah, because I need to get back down to at least
Instead of
220.
talking the bull, start charging like a bull.
Because I tell these guys, I'll bring it up next week at the No Bull about the time when I met Mike Tyson. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
I have
Okay.
a video.
Second person I'd like to meet in this world is Mike Tyson. I want to give him a
Yeah.
hug. My favorite. I fucking love that guy. He's
Yeah,
so fucking
yeah.
awesome. Is
Yeah.
This is a great question. Who you would like to meet?
Who
and
would you,
why?
yeah, honestly, if you could say I could meet 3 people right now, living or dead,
Yeah.
who would they be?
That's a tough one, man. I mean, Jesus Christ, right?
Okay, that's probably
I mean, isn't that a
pretty good
gimme?
one.
That's a gimme. I gotta have a word with him.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I don't get that chance when I move on in the afterlife.
Oh, you'll get it. I'm sure you'll get it.
That's funny.
Maybe I don't go that direction. So yes, we need to have a conversation beforehand.
Yeah,
Work my way in there.
But if you want to hear more stories about Mike Tyson, tune in next week on Jim Crashers, 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, with, of course, myself, Joey the Bull,
Yep.
Adam Woods, Dondo, and whoever's going to be our special guest next week.
Johnny Munoz.
Munoz,
next
right?
week.
Kid Van Bo. I don't know
So-
what Kid Van Bo means. I know somebody named him that from Norway, right? Sweden. Okay. Yeah, we'll wrap up real quick. So, again, we got Jason Bukich here with us tonight. He is World Series of Jiu-Jitsu. You need to know anything, hit him up, hit us up, because we'll point you in the right direction. Next event coming up at 10th Planet Costa Mesa. Very excited about that. And then, yes, we're going to start talking about the Gym Crashers going to Oregon.
Man, that would be fantastic.
You know? And Our Life CBD, because when we talk about gym crashing, we're the same. Our Life CBD.
We're going to blow the Kardashians out of the water.
I would love it.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Hey.
we're gonna have GoPros in the van. That's gonna be us arguing, fighting on the way up there.
You don't want to GoPro in our van.
Yeah.
because we will get.
Well, at least there's no smell on a GoPro.
Who's
so
gonna be
you'll
kicked
fine.
off first out of the van?
Did he
I'm
imply
gonna get my own
a bank
van.
bus at the Kardashian up
Whoa.
to Oregon? What
This
the fuck?
guy.
You should have seen.
God,
oh my
Jesus
God. Driving back
Christ.
from MMA Events Inc. to get food with the 4.
Yes. They can't hear you. You're not on the mic. But yes, we driving back from MMA Events Inc. It was dirty. Getting back to wrapping our show, guys. We have, again, Jason Bukich here. He is at Cho's Academy Monday night. So we are going to gym crash that. That is not just a promise. That is a threat. We're coming down.
I look
We
forward
love
to
Laguna
it.
Beach, but thank you.
My
Such
pleasure.
a pleasure getting to know you and your story.
And where can people find you on social media and more about World Series of Jiu-Jitsu?
The easiest way is WSOJJ.com, WorldSeriesOfJiu-Jitsu.com.
That's right.
And then we have Facebook and Instagram accounts too. And yeah, that's it. That's probably the easiest way. Yeah, I don't have personal that stuff, but
No, that's World Series of Jiu-Jitsu. That's
There you go.
fine with me.
Legit.
how can you forget that?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Legit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the last thing I wanted to say. That's how you asked with the poker. So my friend won a bracelet in the World Series of Jiu-Jitsu, and I was pissed. I was like, he won like 240 grand or something like that, and I was like,
Yikes. That's a house.
this
from
motherfucker.
someone.
Because we used to play poker together, and we were pretty even. But I quit poker. I stuck with jiu-jitsu. It's like, this motherfucker. If I just stay with
You'll live
poker,
longer.
I would have made fucking 240 grand. Yeah, I'll live longer. And I'm like, why doesn't this exist for jiu-jitsu? And
Yes.
that day I went home and I looked up the domain name. Does it exist for World Series of Jiu-Jitsu? And I said, I'm starting.
There it is.
Yeah,
I'm
that
so
was-
glad
that
to
was the-
wrap on that. That's exactly
That
what I
was
wanted
it.
to know.
It took an hour and a half to get to that.
That's
I
awesome.
apologize. For
And, and you were in a house of poker with this guy here, so that's cool.
We can go play some poker.
We can do it sometime.
to.
So yeah, so that's the beginnings of World Series of Jiu-Jitsu. He wants to bring the money to you, but you got to put it on the line to get it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Very cool.
Damn right. So definitely follow World Series of Jiu-Jitsu. Follow my man Donda, who has a interview up with Chris Cyborg ahead of Bellator 236. Where can they find you, my man?
Dondo the Gym Crasher on Instagram and John Dondo on Facebook.
And according to Woods, everywhere you get your social media from. And we are out. Thank you again, guys.
Bomb.
Thank you.
Really? I feel like there's a connection.